Okay, this is the planning board, March 28th. First up, you're going to hear from Andy and Fred for Century Mill.
Interested in that one?
Daniel will be there. Alright.
How you guys doing?
Good. Look at this thing.
Yeah, no. I'm not cutting that off. You know who's going back.
Alright, so let's just jump into it. So we want to talk about the overall development and construction schedule for phase 1. Andy?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Phase 1 has a lot of work done to it. Not so much construction work, but in order for us to, phase 1's going to have quite a bit of blasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in order to, for us to knowledgeably estimate the cost and for someone to not have to guess at it, we have already, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, we cut the trees down in the right of way, and we removed the trees. We pulled all the stumps, and we stripped the loam and subsoil, which is what you would have to do. Those are the first steps you would have to do to build. We didn't do it to necessarily build, but in order to see where the ledge was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been done. What we have also done is we have had a blasting company, Main Drilling and Blasting came, and they also drilled for testing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've given us a proposal for blasting. Also, the construction of the continuing actual commencement of construction, I wouldn't call what we did. It is the first few steps of construction, but it's not why we did it. And also, by the way, the same has been done in phase 3. Mm-hmm. Those same steps. So you can drive from the end of pavement in phase 2 all the way through to Century Mill. So we are going to be making a decision either to commence construction ourselves or to sell the lots that we don't own in phase 1.
That we do all.
That we, sell the ones we do. Sorry.
Don't sell the ones you have.
How do you think we make money? No, sell the ones that we own. We own, there are 18 lots in that phase. 14 we own. And of the 14 we own, we have to either pay the town or donate to.
Right, for the affordable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that really leaves me with 12.
Well, it doesn't go by phase though, it goes by the overall development, right?
It does, but he doesn't own the lots in phase 3, correct?
I don't own lots in phase 3.
Okay. But right now, affordable, we're through how many?
1. So the decision says that he's to donate or give fee in lieu for 3.
Right,
It's
so
based
there's
on
2 remaining,
procedures.
and the only ones we have without a road are in phase 1.
Okay.
So essentially, if we, you can look at it like I own 14, and if I put the road in, then like I did before, I may write the town a check. Or I could give you 2 lots in which I'd only own 12. Mm-hmm. There's a delta between doing it if I actually put the road in, because the lot becomes more valuable. And if you put the road in, you have to put it in for all of them. So my donation to the town is only required on the value of the
Undeveloped lot.
unimproved,
Unimproved.
right? So that's why we wrote the check last time, instead of actually
Right, yeah.
donating a lot. We have discussed with a couple different companies, purchasing or selling, however you want to look at them, purchasing and us selling. We haven't done any marketing of it. We just happened to, when we spoke to the blasting company, and when I spoke to somebody about valuing our equipment, they asked if we had any land for sale, and that's how we sell. Those are the companies that we've discussed selling to. But we haven't marketed it or listed it or anything like that.
So the affordable for in their plan is 20, 40, 60, is that what it is? Every 20? And you're at what right now, 20?
Probably around 40-something.
30-something.
30-something?
For COs?
Well, by the
Maybe
time we
for
finish
building
what's
permits.
by the time we finish what's under construction, will be around 39, I believe.
Okay.
And 40, you'll cross that in phase 2? In phase 1 or phase 2 or not until you get to phase 1? That's what he's saying?
We won't cross it till we get to phase 1.
Okay.
Phase 2 is Cider Circle, phase
Yeah.
3 is the...
I didn't know if there were any more in phase 1 or
okay.
phase 2.
Yeah, no, phase 2 is done.
Okay.
We have houses under construction, but we won't cross the threshold under that phase.
Mhm.
I can double check that, but
So
I'm pretty sure about that.
you're thinking that you want to go up to 39 and then unload? That's what you're thinking? That's what you're saying?
What do you mean?
You don't want to do another affordable? So
Oh, no, it's just you're saying that it's not due.
It's not due
Yeah,
yet, is all
yeah.
we're saying. We would
Well,
still.
I was just
be
wondering, you were saying,
obligated
because
to do
there's one more in phase 1. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me, maybe I'm
you just
making,
confused me, but...
I don't think I made it clear the way I said it.
Yeah,
The way it's working out
yeah,
is that you'll be getting 2
it when we get
in
to
phase 1,
yeah.
just from
Just
the numbers.
now, yeah.
They're not obligated until they get to that 40 mark.
The
which
40, yeah.
At that point,
Yeah.
they would be in phase 1.
Yeah, okay, that's what you're saying, all right.
So, I expect that the road will be under construction this season.
Okay,
I mean, as I said, that we did do, I don't want to, it's a substantial amount of the work,
yeah,
but it wasn't done for road construction.
We've also sent out requests for proposals to road builders to
Yeah.
possibly do it, not in-house this time. So we haven't received any back yet, but they
Not
have
yet.
been sent out.
Okay, that's
I'm
good.
expecting the
That's
first
good
one
to know.
next week.
Is that the direction that you're leaning towards? If the price is right?
It's hard to say until we see the numbers out.
Yeah.
so in that case, you would still, so you guys would still build the road, but you'd be selling the lots for people to construct on?
No, well, it could work out that way, but
Yeah.
we're bidding out the road so that
Okay.
we know what it would cost to hire somebody else to do it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And then we'll compare it to our numbers on what it cost us to do it in-house previously, and whatever makes sense, is the route we would end up taking.
Mhm.
There's approximately 1,400?
1,400 feet.
1,400 feet of road in that phase, so the last phase we did, we built the road ourselves, was 1,900 feet. This phase has an added step, and it has a minus step compared to what we did previously. This phase has an added step of dealing with ledge.
Right, so would you be paving all the way through phase 3, or would you just be going from Century Mill up to the phase 3 line?
You just,
Century Mill.
To the ladder. we don't own the lots in
Oh, okay.
phase
3.
3.
So the people who own the lots in phase 3 are responsible for the road, or Century Mill?
They're responsible to build the road under the sale that we did.
Is that the case?
And they
So
also,
who's responsible? The people, the owners of
There are
the...
several owners. I don't know what their agreement is, but it's National Lumber, it's a couple of different people.
So you guys have an agreement that they're responsible for the road?
yes.
Do we have a bond, or is it the whole?
They-
Covenant is the bond.
And they actually did fund it. I think they funded the Concom bond, I know.
So how does that work?
Okay.
They buy in, they sign on to the covenant then?
They did sign the
They did
covenant.
originally.
Oh, okay.
They're already on, yeah, they were the original signers of the covenant. They purchased these lots, you know, at the very, very beginning when I bought.
And
I
where-
mean, when Old Stone acquired the parcels from the original owners, I'll call it, the people that we acquired the land from, the Lampsons, the Larkins, and Gigi Bonazzoli, and there was a couple other people. When we acquired, they simultaneously acquired.
Right. So just legally, I mean, he can't just say, well, I'm not building phase, I mean, they're all equal owners of the road, right? The whole road, or how exactly does that work?
Well, they're all governed by the approvals and the performance guarantees.
And the covenant.
I mean, in terms of, you know, percentage of ownership, that doesn't really, I guess, matter to us.
I'm just talking about bond and getting the road built.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
you
they would
know,
all be obligated to those decisions.
Is any building happening on phase 3 right now?
Meaning building of...
Houses?
No, not, I mean, typically, the houses can't be built until there's emergency vehicle access. So the road doesn't necessarily have to be paved. Of course, that's up to the planning board, but
I mean,
I believe what the covenant says.
right, I'm just trying to get a handle on it because the reason why you're here is to get an extension on the road, correct?
That's part of it, yeah.
Which is June is the deadline, and it doesn't seem like there's any plan at all for phase 3, so I'm just trying to understand.
Sounds like we need to get those owners in here to
Yeah.
understand what their intentions are.
So I'm just hearing you saying that, you know, it seems like you're saying you're not responsible for phase 3.
Well, in the sale agreement with them, because the agreement contains language that they're required to put the road in when I tell them to.
When you tell them to.
When I tell them to.
So when are you gonna tell them to put on the road?
Actually, they had a certain number of years where they were barred from competing with me as far as sales,
Okay.
which has long since passed. And a couple of years ago, a few years ago, was actually when Carol was still here, so I don't know how long ago that was. The deadline was nearing to get the Conservation Commission approvals extended. And so I advised them to put the road in and get their work done. That's when they funded the Concom bond, and we began the road. And we were gonna build the entire road. And although I'm not obligated to build the road for them, and they can hire anybody else, they're not obligated to use me either. What ended up happening was a couple people, 2 out of the 3 entities paid, and 1 didn't. So we stopped. Like, you know, so that's what happened. So you can find out. I know that National Lumber wants the road in.
How many lots do they own?
He purchased 6 lots in the entire development, but 2 of them are in phase 1. Right?
Phase 3. Well, 2 are in phase 1. 4 are in phase 3. Well, the phase line divides.
That's why I said there are 18 lots in phase 1, but I only own 14. Maybe he owns 4. I don't
He
know.
owns 4
He
in
has
phase
4.
3, but the
No,
phasing
in
line
phase
cuts
1,
through
how many
to
do you
0.
own? 2? 4.
He owns 2 that are definitely in and 2 on the line, but the phasing line cuts through his lots. National Numbers.
All right, well, I'm a little confused with my numbers, I apologize. If you want, I can get back to you with the exact numbers.
I have a bit, yeah, there's
There
a.
were 17 lots that 3 people
These
purchased.
2 lots right here, the phasing line on the road plan actually cuts through those lots, so it depends on which one you want to count them in that he owns. But he also owns 2 over here.
Okay.
Maybe that's why I'm confused. So, if you count his lots in phase 1, the ones that are here, I believe you'll see this.
So you own all the other lots besides those 4?
Hold on a minute.
That's
I don't have glasses, so I can't see.
So you,
Sorry, I think there's 14 lots in phase 1, and 18 lots total.
oh yeah.
Okay, I think there's 18 lots total, and 4 of them are owned by another person,
So is your plan
which
to
leaves
have
14.
blasting and paving
And as far
done?
as me, I kind of look at it like I need 12, because I gotta get 2 at a time.
So when's your plan to have blasting and paving done in phase 1?
It's not that I'm slouching, but these are different heights. The road, it depends on who builds it. If we build it, it's probably approximately let's call it a year process. And then that is plus or minus, and that may be affected by weather. If we brought in another company to build it, it may be faster, depending on who it is and how much equipment they have.
So, I mean, assuming the worst case then, you're talking about a year for phase 1, and then there's no plan at all for phase 3, is what I'm hearing.
I know that the person, I've been told that the person who did not fund their construction, the construction that we did in phase 3, his desire is to wait until I'm done, so that they don't have to compete with us.
Well, he can wait as for long as he wants to build, but I mean, you have to look at getting the road in there too, so.
Yeah, I mean, we basically built the development to date as fast as we can. So based on rate of sales. I mean,
What can the town do, Erica, to, so we can extend it, but I mean, how do we hold them to deadlines? It's lot releases, pretty much.
And that's really what it would come down to at that point, yeah.
And there's no more lots to release in phase 2 or phase 4.
No,
When do you plan on starting to build on phase 1?
we want to get our, we bid it out. I mean, we have not finished in phase 4. We still have this year to build 7-ish houses. 6 houses. So it's not, we're not really dragging our feet. It's just that we want to finish one phase. Come very close to, there's only so much money,
And they're all at various stages of construction right now.
so your plan is to finish the houses and then start the construction on phase 1?
It's not so much the houses, but the site work, because our equipment's tied up with the site work on the houses, so you can't really start a move. That team of people and all the equipment have to go over to the road.
So when will that site work be done? I would expect that to take a while then.
I would think,
In the summer,
yeah,
that's my guess.
a few more months.
End of summer, did
End
you
of
say?
summer.
End of summer. Yeah, I'd say by the end of summer, we should be, we could have phases, phase 4 done, phase 3 is already done, and we could even top coat the roads. I mean, I'd love to get the roads top coated, get it over with.
So by the time we finish with the last lot, our heavy equipment's out of it.
Yeah, then there's no need to bring heavy equipment up and down the roads.
Talking about the roads in phase 4 and 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then at the end of the summer, then you wanna start building right away on phase 1? So
We may start before.
Yeah.
The question is, if we're doing it, we don't have, it's hard for us to have equipment built, you know, working on 7 or 8 houses simultaneously and be building a road at the same time. We don't have, we have a decent amount of equipment, but we're not as large as certainly as there are bigger companies that have more equipment.
So when do you expect to know whether or not you're gonna contract out the road? I mean, could you let us know next month? Could we, you know, meet again in May? Would you have a decision then to let us know?
Well, I'll have more information, whether I have a final decision or not. I mean, I do have an idea of what roads, what you should be able to get a road built for. And in the site work business, sometimes a lot of it is timing. If you happen to hit a company that's busy and you ask them for a bid, they're not gonna say, no, we're not interested, but what they will do is their costs will be higher, because if they have to bring on new people, they're gonna look at it like, well, we're gonna have lower efficiency, we're gonna have to rent some extra equipment, so their costs are gonna be higher, and then by the same token, if you find the right company who's a little bit slow, and they've got equipment sitting around, and they've got, you know, overhead, they'll give you a better deal, you know what I mean? So, just because we get in 2 or 3 bids doesn't necessarily mean that they are the correct numbers, that where they should be, approximately. And I built a lot of roads, so.
So if you're doing it, you'd be blasting, basically blasting in the fall, removing all the rock then, and then doing the prep, and then you're waiting for the asphalt plants to open in the spring to...
Well, a lot to do before the asphalt.
Well, but...
Yeah.
You're saying when you say it'll be this time next year, is that really true, or is that you're still waiting for things to open up at this point?
I mean, there's steps to build a road. Over there, the first step, and as I said, the first step normally would be to put your conservation protection, erosion controls in place. That's already been done. The next step would be to cut down trees. After you cut the trees down, the next step's to remove them. That's all been done.
Yeah, you've done all that stuff.
The next step is to pull all the stumps.
Yeah, you've done that.
That's a lot. I mean, these are all significant steps.
I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah. And then the next step is to remove topsoil and subsoil, because you can't build on it.
Yeah.
That's been done.
Yeah.
And in this case, we actually, I mean, basically, when you got to removing the subsoil, you hit ledge. So, so basically, it's all exposed. And so now the next step is to, you know, have the engineers go back out, stake sort of more precisely things, and so you know exactly where the road's going to be, and then you would notify the fire department, notify neighbors. You're going to have to do some
We also do
surveys of neighbors' houses and video their houses before you begin blasting, so that to record, if, you know, if they had a crack here or a crack there, it gets pictured. And then, although we're not very close to anybody's house, but I think, you know, anyway, there may be a few that we want to do.
So,
And then,
sorry, go ahead.
then the blasting company would bring in drill machines, and they would drill a pattern, probably starting at the beginning of Century Mill Road, and you blast. I mean, you know, you're not blasting it's not the whole thing in one shot.
Yeah.
It's 25 to 50 feet.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And then you have to have a large excavator there to move blasting mats around, which is tedious. And after they blast, you have to clear away some of what they blasted, pull it away, because you always have to have room for the blasting to move again. And eventually you'll continue up the road, and when they get far enough away, then you could have a second operation, and you could start digging the rock, loading it onto, and running it through some of the rock at the top will be too large to run through a crusher. As the rock gets deeper, it should come out in smaller sizes, which can be directly put into a crusher, if you want to crush it into a gravel.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
that'll be a choice.
So you're moving your equipment end of summer, you're gonna start doing all the blasting, all the prep work, and you're gonna work all the way through the winter regardless of the weather on this, and have it ready
Depends on the winter.
to pave as soon as...
It depends on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
winter.
yeah, I mean, you've got, you drive by there and it's an eyesore that needs to get resolved. And we need to get, we've now extended this several times, we need to get this
Yep.
finished up. So I'm just looking for,
Right.
and the residents are, I'm sure, want to get this finished so that so the town can decide whether to accept the road or not.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
You were going through these steps up to blasting and implying that everything is done except for the blasting? Is that correct?
We're ready to be, pretty much, we're ready to begin blasting.
Okay, but the reason you can't start blasting right away is, I'm sorry, I know I came in late, so
Well-
I'm trying
We have to, we're...
to, you should wrap it up phase 4.
Right.
Okay,
So I have to have the ability to allocate enough people and equipment.
but you're not blasting over phase 4, I guess, so, I mean, that would be different equipment, so is there a reason why
Well,
that couldn't?
no, it's
The excavators are still there.
the excavators,
Okay, okay.
the excavator, the loader, the crusher,
Okay,
and those, it's the same people,
gotcha, okay.
and truck, and,
Unless you have somebody else do it.
right.
Have you sent out for bids?
Yeah, I'm expecting the first one back next week. We've sent out to about 6 different road builders.
Okay.
So what's our action?
Working through the winter, it depends on the winter.
It's like
If
this
it's,
winter.
if it's,
So if we, I mean, he's clearly not gonna be done in June.
No.
Right, so I mean, if we didn't give him an extension, I mean,
Yeah,
What
I
happened?
think it's advantageous to give
of
them
course,
extension. We have
I'm
to
saying,
want
I'm
the
saying,
road built.
yeah, it's not-
I think the board could look at it in a few different ways. I mean, if you'd like to have him come back in another month or two to figure out where he came in with these estimates with the road builders, you can kind of set that as the first checkpoint. Or if you don't really care one way or the other, if it's a road builder, if he builds it, if you wanted him to come in towards the end of summer to kind of see where he's at there, then that could be an option.
I think we need to get phase 3 resolved as well.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
that's
it'd be
true,
good to
yeah.
get
So
those,
I think
get
getting,
those
Yeah.
owners.
getting those owners in, and whether they can piggyback on your bids for your, from the road builders or whatever.
I did
Yeah.
include those as a separate proposal to
Okay,
the,
so,
I
okay.
sent it out to, just to
Okay.
get numbers.
it's,
But I mean, I think, we need to get the whole road put in, not just
yeah.
2 little stubs and with a
Well,
gap because somebody doesn't want to build quite yet.
well, the project's been approved in phases. And bringing that much inventory of lots on at one time and completing that much infrastructure at one time is unnecessary, and it's a huge unnecessary expense.
It's unnecessary to you, but to the residents, it is necessary to get the road completed. And just because there's a road there doesn't mean that that they have to build houses there.
No, I know, but the
So-
cost of building a road and then having it sit there is,
At a certain level, that's not our problem.
well, but
That's something that they accepted when they took the lots, that they were gonna have to put a road in.
what are we,
And
what is the disadvantage to the residents?
How many you want?
I don't know, I'm just saying.
We can start naming them, take a while. No, I'll say
Well, no, I-
my biggest concern is since the
Well, hold
road is
on.
not. oh,
Wait,
sorry.
I mean, so,
I mean, I'm just saying.
we don't have tons more time here, but there are a lot of people here, so I'd like a few people to talk, but if you guys cannot, repeat your points, and if there's a few people who want to talk, that would be good, but state your name and where you're from, your address and stuff, that would be good.
Rick Bernier, 5 Cider Circle, Century Mills. My biggest concern is if he doesn't complete the whole road is we're liable for snow plowing. And if it sounds like he doesn't really care about finishing, I believe, is it phase 3, is it?
Yeah,
Then we're gonna be, so the streets will never be turned over to the town because they're not complete, and then for years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years until the road is complete, we're on the hook for snow plowing.
Right. I mean, that is true, and the town would be hesitant to accept the road when there's still heavy construction to be done on phase 3, having heavy equipment driving over the completed parts of the road.
Not necessary to drive over it.
How would you
Would you
get
be
that?
accessing only from Century Mill Road?
Yeah.
You would be?
Yeah. There's no reason for us to drive over it.
Once we wrap up the lots in phase
Yeah.
4,
We would not have to drive over it at all.
Subdivision.
And the wetland crossing's in phase 3, not phase 1, right?
Phase 3, that's correct.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm able to top coat the roads this year. And I don't know if you've been out to the site, but the other phases, I mean,
And once you top coat, there's no plan to ever have any heavy equipment drive over it?
it's unnecessary. That we wouldn't top coat it
Yeah.
and then drive over it with heavy equipment.
This is Kai Chong, I live on 71 Mill Pond Road. So currently, at the end, I live near the end of phase 2, there is a temporary cul-de-sac. As part of that cul-de-sac, the homes around the cul-de-sac, the properties is not in its final shape or form. And so I just have a question. If we were to defer phase 3 until later, who's going to finish that cul-de-sac and who's going to, I think Andy has written, is committed to finishing that cul-de-sac and finishing our property and maybe our neighbors when the road's built. And I'm just concerned that if this road doesn't get built, who am I going to go chase down, years down the road to finish that cul-de-sac?
May I respond?
Mhm.
Excellent question. I think that it should be part of the requirement that, actually, that would get done before we top coat. Because it would have to be done before we top coat.
But I think,
So the end of the road is just gonna, it's not gonna be a cul-de-sac there, it's just gonna be that end there now?
Yeah, we would,
Yeah.
we could, no, we just built, we'd extend the cul-de-sac into phase 3, make the cul-de-sac there, and then his road can be, completed. Basically,
this-
his,
This would move from here.
yeah, he's moving like 100 feet.
Okay,
And then, because he has the cul-de-sac there,
yeah.
the sidewalk stops and doesn't, it's just a
Does
temporary.
does go continuous.
So that would be the easiest way, Kai, to just extend the cul-de-sac,
It's all like-
I mean,
100 feet.
and if, when we did an extension,
I'm less than convinced that that's the best way for the town.
we could write that up in the plan for extension.
I'm less than convinced that that letting phase 3 float forever is the way to proceed.
Well,
This is the best thing for the town to do here.
Just to get in, right?
I don't think you're letting it float forever, it's just,
Well, I
this is a
mean,
big project, and there's only a certain
Okay,
absorption rate.
so phase 3, well, I mean, we have an extension that's being requested now, and you're saying that some of the owners in phase 3 have no interest in completing it
I
anytime soon.
didn't say they have no interest, I said that they,
They're waiting for everything else to be done, then they'll decide to put the road in.
no, they're waiting for me to complete my sales.
Okay,
So after I'm done with phase 4, right?
and phase 1.
Well, phase 4 is basically wrapping up in the next
Phase 4 is
months.
wrapping up. How long is it going to take
So,
you to
I
build
mean,
out
generally,
phase?
you would build it in phases.
I'm aware of that, Andy.
Yeah, okay.
How long is it going to take you to build out phase 1? Another 2 years, 3 years?
So it's 14 lots. It's probably 2 years of sales.
Okay, so they're not even going to start looking at putting in the road for another 2 years? Is that what you're telling me?
I think they would put it in as soon as we complete, get far enough along with sales, they'll put their section in.
I think we need to get them in and
They can do that.
Yeah.
light a fire under them to get it done in a more timely fashion here. I mean, it's been way too long. I mean,
When you say
any
it's been-
schedule that is.
You say it's been way too long, I mean, the project was approved in phases, and it's a big project, and Bolton only has a sort.
I don't want to get too far
absorption rate.
behind, I don't schedule, I want to get a couple
I mean,
more
Bolton
comments.
only has like
Okay,
55
okay.
houses in
Come on,
the
Eddie.
town itself.
Come on.
Yes, Vince LaRosa, 73 Old Stone Circle. 2 quick points. If you were not to give an extension, I'm curious just what that would mean. And then the second question is, if you do give an extension, what kind of reassurances would you give? Because I don't believe this is the first extension Andy's asked for. He also said that he's building these as fast as he could possibly sell them, but unfortunately, the challenge is that some of these houses have been sold and people have had to walk away because he hasn't hit deadlines. So this, I don't know that that's, the case necessarily. So what type of reassurances do we have if there's an extension that was made at this point?
He is correct. Out of 47 houses, we did have 2 houses sales that we lost. We try to do that because we like losing the sales.
But there's also people that have agreed to extensions far beyond what was on the purchase and sale agreement. So I'm just curious, what that would...
Well, I mean, we don't want him walking away from the project completely and leaving us hanging, so I don't really know if we don't extend him, what that would mean. That would shut him down pretty much, right?
Well, I think the way that the condition reads in the covenant is if you don't agree to an extension, it would be a rescission of the plan.
Right. So it would shut the project down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we want to work with, we need further guidance from town council on that.
Which I don't think that's a good option for anybody.
No, I think we want the road to get built.
Yeah. And then reassurances, if we do write an extension, things like that cul-de-sac, extending that, we could probably write that in an extension, different conditions like that, right?
Yeah, I think that could be negotiated.
Yeah. Just so it's in writing and the plan is there.
And we're trying to do a really nice job over in the development.
Thank you.
Hi, John Ballot, 21 Center Circle. So it sounds like your main concern, at least starting wise, was for the phased idea was heavy machinery, which I think there's a lot of precedent to allow roads to be accepted while there's still quite a bit of building done, just like Oak Trail and other areas in the town. So I don't think that should be something that should prevent a phased approach. I think based on what I'm hearing, there's really no end in sight for the other phases in my mind. And I think that the town should really look at that as an option. If Andy can commit to get the road into the shape that would be acceptable, that would be my first point. My second point is, if it sounds like you're leaning towards allowing an extension, which is reasonable, but back in the last extension, there was a commitment that blasting was going to start in 1 month, and there was no check-in from the town to make sure that was happening for phase 1 and 3. And so, kind of back to Vince's point, that should have been started over 2 years ago, based on the extension that was committed to, with the notes from last meeting said, specifically from Fred, that phase 1 and 3 blasting will start in 1 month. So it was August 10th, and that never happened. So I'd like to make sure that whatever is decided by the board, that there is some level of oversight. But I also believe that whatever oversight you have is not going to be within a timeline that would really be acceptable to the homeowners, because I don't see it for years. And obviously the last extension was allowed without this third party being a part of that. And I don't know why. I don't think that's the first time I've heard this, that they're responsible for the road. So that was extended without that third party as well. So I think there's a lot of pieces that the town could have done better. So I'd like to request that you really consider the phased approach for the betterment of the homeowners. I don't know if there's any bylaws, or I couldn't find any reason why the town wouldn't accept that, except that it hasn't been done before. I couldn't find any reasons within any of the bylaws. So, if you could just get back to us as far as what would prevent that.
The town doesn't, and we've had this in a couple other cases where developers have asked to have roads accepted before they're done, basically, and the town has always turned that down because we don't want the liability. Because it gets into all sorts of, if the town plows go down the road and in the spring, some of the drains or something, clean out some things are dinged up. Is that now town responsibility, or is that still the builder? It's just all sorts of, it sounds petty, but it adds up to a huge amount of liability.
No, I agree with this not being complete, but if it could be phased, complete and phased, that's what.
So when you put the top coat on, that's presuming that all of Fred's comments, everything's complete.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like you could.
Well, let's not get ahead of
I'm not getting ahead of ourselves, but it seems like it potentially. It doesn't seem like it's a complete no. It seems like maybe it's something we can talk about.
I think what happens in phase 2 and 4, Andy needs to finish that up.
For sure, yeah,
And get
nothing
the
to be
equipment,
left
and
hanging.
get equipment out of there and
Yeah,
get
for sure.
happy with that.
For sure, yeah.
And
Nothing-
then
yeah.
petition
For sure.
the town
Nothing to be
to
done
accept
until-
that portion of the road.
All of Fred's comments need to be checked off, you know.
we need to focus on phases 1
Yeah,
and 3
yeah.
and making
I
sure
agree.
that that's finished up.
Yeah,
So the town ultimately can accept the whole thing in a finished
Yeah.
manner.
But just as a point of clarification, so I understand what you were saying, you were basically saying as a phased approach to basically finish like the roadway in lots 2 and 4, accept it at that point
Yes.
without doing the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood that.
I mean, if there wasn't, you know, a second entrance and trucks are gonna be going over that, then it could never be the case.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
But with 2 entrances, there's the potential that there's an option that maybe we can make something work.
There's an option there, but again, I mean, I think that's kind of orthogonal to the entire,
Yeah, for sure.
what we're here for tonight.
No, I agree, I agree.
So
Yeah, I agree that that's a separate piece from the extension.
You know,
And talking,
and that's something that, and quite honestly, Andy needs to pursue with the town so that he doesn't have to plow it next winter. He can be focusing down on plowing and working on the rest of it. So.
I agree that's a separate discussion.
Yeah, but I just don't want to get sidetracked with
No, for sure.
that direction while we leave the rest of the road hanging.
So, maybe like one more comment from the audience?
I just have one more question. Rick Bernier, Five Cider Circle, Bolton, Century Mills. We were talking about there are 3 other owners in the phase that they have a plausible way to build, I guess a plausible way to get out of building the actual road. I'm just curious, you mentioned National Lumber. I know Gentle Dental was one of them. What's the third?
Christine Palmer owns one lot. Okay. But I didn't understand. What do you mean they have a plausible way of getting out of it?
Well, they can choose to build a road or they don't have to.
Oh, no, that's not, no. They can choose. I don't have to build the road, I'm not the one. They have to build the road, they've signed a covenant.
They just don't
With the
have to
town.
use us to do it.
All right.
They can hire anybody they want to do it.
So they're separate, sorry. Yeah, for clarification. Amy Genie, 46 Wholesale Circle. So they're separate covenants, or is it all one covenant?
It's the same
for?
covenant.
Okay.
And they signed the same covenant I did.
Gotcha.
So I think what we'll do is, next meeting, or if we can get those other owners in here, I don't think we can sign any extension until we talk to the other owners. I think we need to get everybody on the same page, get a plan, an actual plan, and I think, you know, whoever said it, I think we need to, you know, we can hold, you know, if they're not holding to that extension, we can hold lots, right? Or no?
Well, they're, at this point for the phase 4, there's nothing.
I'm saying in the
Oh,
future,
in the
moving
future,
forward.
Yes.
I mean, I think somebody said that, you know, we weren't checking in on them, and I think that's probably accurate. We probably weren't checking in on them enough on.
Can I make a comment to that? I never once gave a date that we would begin blasting. I said, the way it's looking with the meetings with the drilling company, we could begin
I
blasting.
know we were talking about, you were saying like next month.
It was a possibility at
Yeah,
that time, but
yeah.
I never committed to a start date.
Okay,
We talked about putting up
I think
notices for the neighbors.
we're going to do next meeting or a month from now.
I think it just depends on
When
the other
people-
owners,
yeah.
yeah, what their schedules
So,
allow
I
for.
think what do we shoot for?
It's not like we have to continue a hearing, so I don't have to set a date now.
No.
But can I also ask, I mean, it would be helpful, I think, since there are a couple balls in the air, to get it, once those questions are answered, a revised schedule, to get a better understanding of how the rest of this is gonna move forward.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you want to start working on that before that meeting, whether it's a month from now, but we definitely need to get you and the other owners and get an actual schedule for whatever it's 1 or 2 years, whatever it is, and then work towards that. Last comment.
Hi, yes, Elisa Templar Leaks, 117 Century Mill Road. I live directly across from what I refer to as Ball Bridge, which is the cleared area for the Phase 1. And on a regular basis, there are people trespassing on that property and hunters going up there. And I'd like to request that there's some kind of barrier arm with a do not trespass sign installed on that side across the dirt road access. There was when the development was underway on the other side, before they started construction, that used to exist, so I don't know why there isn't one on our side. And I've had to call the police on numerous occasions to get people cleared off that land.
I can post do not trespass.
Well, I mean, that's,
That doesn't stop them.
well, I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, Well, putting up some,
A barrier, like an arm, a swinging arm barrier across the road.
So you're saying people are just parking on that cleared area?
Driving up.
People are driving up there at all hours of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, cars caravanning up there. I call the police, they chase them off the land. Hunters are going up there hunting. Children play in those woods all the time. And I don't know why hunters are even allowed on that property.
I have to say about that.
I can put some boulders across the roads, but the problem is we use it.
Yeah.
But you used it when you were constructing on the other side and you had an arm. Why can't you do it on our side?
I'm thinking, I'm not, so I can give you a good answer.
Think of it, remember, you know,
You probably could put a gate. But, I mean, it would be
Probably
not
gate.
right on the road, because that's...
No, it has to be up where the
The trail.
two roads combine and start to head up the hill.
Yeah.
and keep the kids out of there overnight and,
Well,
slow them down a little.
okay.
good luck.
But, so that and maybe a no hunting, no trespassing sign up and.
I think,
I can do that.
I think we need to wrap it up. I don't know, and, you know, we have a bunch of other business tonight. I think the plan is to come back either next meeting or the meeting after
Yep.
to talk about the extension with the other owners of the land. And not just to do the extension, but have a detailed plan of
How are we gonna get there?
how we're gonna get there.
How are we gonna get the road at least wrapped up?
Yeah.
And I'd say probably the meeting after next, because it sounds like that's when you'll have some bids in for blasting and road construction, and you will have had a chance to make a decision on what direction you want to go in.
Yeah, it's not gonna make any difference for the next, certainly for the next meeting in a couple of weeks. But
So I'm saying a month from now.
well,
We don't have to lock it down now,
no, but I'm...
but you do need the extension.
Your discussions with them, without an extension, will affect our ability to move forward.
That's why we want it all together.
Well, no, I'm just wanting you to know that if you try to keep it all together and, like, for example, whatever they're saying is not wrapped up yet, we can't go get the proper financing to build a road without enough time the banks won't lend to you if the approvals are not in place, for a long enough period of time, they won't allow it.
Well, let's talk.
So, I'm just letting you know.
Let's get the other owners, see when we can get them in, and make it happen as soon as possible.
Okay, do I need to be here when they
Yes.
get together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want to get everybody on the same page.
Okay.
And
Are you gonna
I
contact
believe you said you could pull the trigger on when they put in the road, right?
My agreement, when we sold it, contains that language.
Okay.
Yes.
You ready to pull the trigger then?
I already did.
Okay.
I already,
Okay, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Good.
Let the room clear.
When was Bolton fireworks? It seems like it at least.
All right, so what do we have to do with Tadmore?
Let's move ahead to the discussion.
Okay, there's nobody here for Tadmore?
No, we can do that whenever, so let's do the.
This is the tag, or...
We're gonna move ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kathy and Fred, just shut the door.
That door needs to be open.
I think I gave you this.
We did pretty good.
I think I
10
gave
minutes off.
you a hard time. Well, I'm getting better at it.
I was at a hearing last week in Sherwood. I didn't get on until 11 o'clock.
Oh my God.
So you're doing a very good job.
Yeah. 11 o'clock, it's awful.
It was...
Can we ask them to leave?
I can.
Well, I'd let's not make this pregnant.
Oh,
Okay.
They might listen to her.
Oh, that's true, that's true. All right. Well, great. So we have Kathy Adams and Fred Freitas? Yeah. So the reason why we asked you here is, I know I was talking to Erica, you know, trying to set up meetings between the town and the property owners, is because business owners in Bolton have a long history, and we know that, you know, look what happened with you guys, you know, whatever, 5 or 7 years ago, wasn't a happy ending. But, you know, I believe that the demographics in town have changed. People are more interested in getting business. The EDC has been working on making better connections with business owners and property owners. And I think, you know, with the revenue issues the town is having and the demographics in town, I think people are interested in getting business properties developed more. And also, I don't know how much Erica's told you about, but, you know, we have, I don't know if it's gonna pass or not, but we have a bylaw going before the town in May to increase the business coverages from 8% actually to 20%. Knowing that some properties, you know, that's not really feasible with wetlands and stuff like that, but I mean, if that was the case with you 5 years ago, you could have probably done what you wanted to do without going through what you had to go through. So, you know, the reason why I asked you here is just to, you know, well, I'm sure I'm gonna get asked questions presenting that business lot coverage. You know, well, did anybody even want this? You know, how could they use it? So that's one thing, just to see, you know, if that business, the coverage would increase would be good for you. But also just that, we just wanna open up discussion to getting that land developed, pretty much.
Can I just ask a little bit of the, I think I'm a little behind on some of the history since I wasn't here 5 years ago.
So Kathy, so she's on the southeast corner of 495 and 117.
Okay.
They call it the King property.
Yeah, I know, okay, I know, it, yep.
So they wanted to put in a development in that area with 8% coverage in order to be able to build what they wanted to build. And actually they were setting aside an area in 85 as residential, so it would create a buffer zone to houses in that area. I think they wanted to, if I remember everything, they wanted to rezone a landlocked residential area behind it in order to be able to, even though they weren't going to be building a business on that land, they just needed the acreage to build, to get for the 8% coverage to be able to build what they wanted to build.
Okay.
I believe, you know, I believe that
was part of it. Part of it was multiple buildings on one lot.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How is it your zone?
It's a limited business, and limited business and residential.
So, but you can put multiple buildings
You
on.
couldn't then.
Oh, you couldn't then?
No.
Well, with the mixed-use overlay, you could.
But that was not passed.
That wasn't there, yeah.
Right.
It's funny, I always thought you could do that.
No.
No? It's a good thing you didn't go do it. So my point here is just I just wanted to get dialogue opened up, you know, between property owners and the town, and just, you know, let you know that, you know, we want to be open for business. We want things to get developed. Worst possible case is that a 40B comes in and develops on your land, because in my opinion, you know, the land around 495 is, you know, the gold in real estate where businesses could go, and if a 40B comes in and takes that, I mean, that's a really big hit to the town, revenue-wise, amenity-wise, so I don't want that to happen. I'm sure you've been approached. Please don't accept their offer.
Honestly, it's on hold right now to see if this passes, and if it doesn't, it's probably gonna be sold to that person that wants to build a 40B.
Now, how big of a 40B would this be?
Pretty big.
Like hundreds?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they
Apartments,
want.
townhouses, or-
I don't know if they would get it, but, you know, it's...
Unfortunately, with a 40B, we have no say.
No, I
So-
realize that, but it can be friendly or it can be unfriendly.
Mm.
And
But I mean,
But
that's,
I can tell you that we have worked really hard in the last 2 years, trying to get an anchor of some form to want to be able to develop it, even at the ground. And, you know, we tried to come in, you know, spilt milk now, but the development now has happened in Hudson.
Mhm.
Development now has happened at 119.
yeah.
We're squeezed in the middle. We kind of lost our window. Because there's a low demographic in Bolton. You know, you have the 495 traffic, but you just don't have demographics. You just don't have a very populous town. And so a big developer to come in, you need somebody with teeth. And the play we tried to do in 2012 was, I had a grocery store that wanted to go in there. I couldn't say the name at the time, and now it's too late.
And it's those same ones who went into.
Yeah. Yeah. But in effort for what you're doing, I greatly applaud you. I mean, I think it opens up the opportunity to have a chance to, you know, 8% is brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and especially because, you know, there's a gray area. Can you use the residential or not to cover for the amount of 8%? You know, I think that language has been fixed since we, you know, I really studied the zoning.
Well, we're going, so for limited business, we're going from 8% to 20, right? And it's in industrial, we're going 8 to 30. So I guess one of the questions I would have is, you know, going from 8 to 20, does that help? I mean,
Hugely.
It does, okay, because I didn't
Absolutely.
want it to be like, well, it's really not gonna be enough. You know, because what we wanna make sure is we are putting forth percentages that make sense and that can work, and not, you know, it's, well, we've done a little bit, but it's really not gonna.
See, I'm not telling you
much.
guys anything that you don't need. Having no infrastructure in
I
town,
know,
Right.
it's-
Private's killer.
private well is huge,
And no
radius,
sewer.
depending on what you want to do. You know,
Yeah.
private sewer, you know, on our site, we have beautiful soils in one section that we could put a treatment plant.
Okay.
That's, you know, the good part is we had a hotel fully developed in 1990. So we have all the engineering for that whole site. It's just, it took 5 years for the town to approve it, and by the time they approve it, the market crapped out, so we didn't build it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's one thing
So-
as a planning board, and I think others and other boards in town definitely, you know, don't want delays from the town to
Right.
crush plans.
So, you know, we've been beating this site
Yeah.
around for decades.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're really pushing for this 20% and hoping that happens, but also another piece with your residential land in the back, we're putting the overlay from 20%. We're putting the overlay, which your carrot was to go from 8% to 10%, you know, so we're moving that 10% number to 25%. So for the mixed-use overlay, or at least it's a bylaw, you know, see if it passes or not, but, so you could take your entire business lot and the residential lot, use the mixed-use overlay, the multiple buildings, you know, have some residential piece, whatever in the back, but you could have 25%
Well, our
coverage or not.
residential piece in the back honestly is a non-factor because the gas line runs through the middle of it.
Oh.
Well, right, but still, you can take that whole area, you don't necessarily have to build there.
Right.
But you can get the 25%
The
coverage.
acreage, right.
Yeah.
Correct.
You can get the 25% of that acreage in a mixed use, so you'd have to have some housing component to it.
Right. But I just don't understand why you want housing with commercial on 495 and 117. To me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is how the overlay, it's this mixed-use village overlay.
I
That's
know,
kinda what
I
it was.
realize that.
Well, I mean, you could put the residential down toward 85 and the
True.
business toward 117, or toward 495.
Yeah, maybe build a second road or something for
Or
that.
some people like the whole, you know, regardless of the road there, you know, kind of the shops underneath and.
The house, the residents.
Right, but
you know,
that's
apartments
particular
above or
site,
whatever.
really. I mean, it just
I think
doesn't
it was
seem
really just to give
practical.
options, to,
Yeah.
I mean, and for a couple different sites to give some options.
Well, and also, well, if you think of, what is it called in Northborough? The Shops of the Woods, what's it called? The new Northborough development?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
You mean like a Mashpee type?
Oh, like
thing,
where
so-
Avalon and the Wegmans is?
Yeah. you know, as you drive up, there's like those apartment buildings.
Right.
You know, so maybe you have something like that, which next year we're gonna be working on an affordable housing bylaw, so I don't know if it turns into something that looks like that or not, you know, because we really need a whole, huh?
We're restricted by infrastructure.
Yeah, you need a plan for sure, yeah, in that case. But
I came to say, yes, we're in favor of it. Obviously, it's gonna do nothing but try to help. And it's a tough time right now, given the developments that have happened in Hudson and Littleton.
But you still need an anchor store, and
really,
there's potentially none left.
Well, I mean, you can keep trying, but yeah.
I know like 5 to 7 years ago, the EDC tried to talk to like Trader Joe's and those type of grocery stores, but like you said,
Trader Joe's was tough, and now that the state liquor license has lifted a little bit, but they were done. They were on a freeze in Massachusetts because they could only have 3 licenses. And they wouldn't open another store if they couldn't open a wine component with it.
But what they said is, you know, our population isn't big enough for them.
Right. True, but.
They looked at the commuter traffic through. But
right.
Yeah.
But if you look at the 495 traffic and the on-off ramp, you know, there could have been a little bit of a sell there.
Yeah. Fred, what about you? Thoughts on? I know you. So just so everybody knows, your property it kind of wraps around behind Bolton Corners. It's like on this side, it's south of the Sugar Road 40B, and to the northwest of the Bolton Corners.
Yeah, the 40B on Sugar Road, I own that land, and I really didn't want to sell that to a 40B, but it was just the same as her. I just couldn't develop it commercially. Years ago, I do remember you could build multiple units. I think in the 80s that was changed, unless I'm wrong on that. And also, I think the coverage at that time was about 13%, and they reduced it to 8%, which was almost like a taking, you know.
Actually, it was at 6% when we did the hotel in 1992.
Was it really? I don't remember.
Yeah, and then it went up to 8%.
God, I remember when it went down to 8%.
Yeah.
But 20% is a great improvement over 8%, and it's difficult. So I get offers all the time from people who want to buy that land, but they very rarely want to buy it all because they just can't build that much. So I've actually taken that land off the market, even though I get calls all the time.
I mean, you don't have to say names, but like what types of businesses, or is it office, or is it?
No, it's usually, like CVS was interested at one time. Dunkin' Donuts is always interested.
Yeah.
But,
they should have taken the old Clinton Savings Bank area and they have the drive-through then, but.
Well, the no food drive-through is a huge problem.
No drive-throughs.
Yeah.
As a resident, I sort of support that. Whereas a landowner,
yeah, but if you talk to any mother with kids, they would kill for drive-throughs.
Oh my God!
Not this mother. Not in this town.
So yeah,
I know even without drive-throughs, there's an awful lot of trash that ends up on.
Unbelievable.
I'm just saying for convenience factor. I mean, if you have a sleeping kid in the car, a drive-through is pretty.
You have
key.
young kids. It's a
That's the next town.
Yeah. It would be a great thing to go back to. It would make developing the land viable.
And that's our whole point.
Yeah.
Because at 8%, we understand that it's just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the purpose of doing it was that nobody at that time wanted anything in Bolton.
Right.
They wanted, they came here, and this was now their little playground, and they didn't want anybody else to come in, and they didn't want anything developed here.
Yeah.
And
but those same people who came in also want top schools and
Right.
beautiful roads
Right,
and.
but they don't.
taxes,
And,
no taxes, yeah.
and they want camps,
I
and they
understand.
want this, and there's just no money for it, so if there has to be compromise, we need some business development in town to,
And I think we can do it in
Yeah.
a way that
For sure.
is complement to
Yeah.
the surrounding areas.
yeah,
And while we may be increasing the percentages,
Yeah.
there are still setbacks in place.
Right,
There are
exactly.
still buffer zones in
Exactly.
place. So I
And
think
those setbacks are
we've,
huge.
yes, but I think we've looked at that to try to really allow, one, existing businesses a potential to grow and stay and not leave, and two, bring in some new business with some requirements that they need to meet. Understanding we're trying to meet a lot of requirements in the town, but I think we need to be more business friendly with our high taxes.
right. I mean, because we're chasing out all the people, over 55 right now who don't have kids, and, I mean, it's just compounding the revenue and the tax issue even worse. Everything we're doing is like the exact opposite. It's like we're just making things worse and worse. Revenue-wise, tax-wise, it's chasing more people with kids away, and then you build a new, giant house with more kids, and it's just gonna make it,
I agree.
yeah.
Couldn't agree more. My land, I don't need a treatment plant on mine. Mine is pretty much gravel. That was a hill in the 60s, and they took all the gravel and they built 495. And this little, I think it was Perini had a little well, and that's where he parked his trailer. And so now that's, if you look back in my land, you'll see that it goes up. They actually scooped it out. But it's all gravel under there, so it's pretty good land for that.
So, I mean, I guess, in May, it'll be a big indicator.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a big indicator in May of, what the town wants. If they vote against this, then they're gonna end up with 40Bs all over the place.
I know,
We either have business and revenue and amenities, or it's gonna just turn into a bunch of 40Bs like Sugar Road. I mean,
no, you're right. I didn't want it, I don't like it. I shouldn't say that.
I'll say it, I'm a resident of Sugar Road, I moved in 3 years ago. I'm
They're
not a
like
big
right
fan.
on the road. I mean,
But that's the thing, it's not like we can just like cut ourselves off and say nothing. I mean, because of the state laws and the 40B laws, if we just sit on our hands, we just end up with.
I was on the board of
worse
appeals
situation.
for about 20 years. I did the first 40B up on, what the hell's the name of that?
Sunset Ridge? No, Bolton Woods Way.
Right, and it was actually Marco Hagan who did that. We almost didn't understand them, but they could do anything they wanted.
Yeah,
Anything they wanted.
for people who are watching, any local zoning just doesn't exist with 40Bs. They can go in business, they can go in limited business, they can go in industrial, they can go in residential.
So hard.
Right now, there's actually 2 40Bs potentially going in, one on Still River Road and another one on South Bolton Road, in fairly congested areas, and we can't say anything about it because
But I can tell you that this land you're talking about is not gonna go to a 40B. It's just not on the market.
your property.
Yeah. At this.
But that's not, everybody.
No, but I'm letting you know that, just, I can't say, I mean, if it goes to 20 and something good for the town comes along, then I might do that.
Yeah.
What are you doing in advance of that meeting to promote business that would be appropriate for the town or complementary to what we already have? Is there some sort of communication?
So what's your point? We're like,
It's not a point, I'm asking a question.
Yeah, I'm saying,
The
what's your
question is,
I'm trying to
and what are you
understand.
doing to promote that, to bring people into the town to avoid the 40B?
Well, so first of all, nobody wants to develop anything at 8% because it's just not
Right.
viable. I know that on the EDC side of things, which I'm also on the EDC, we get a lot of, what's that message board called? Where we get the emails, people looking for spaces.
It's the site readiness program through the state.
So through this state, and things like the 495 partnership sends us this. So they get this 495 partnership, which is like 20 or 30 towns up and down 495. People will go to them and be like, I'm looking for a space.
Yeah.
This amount of square feet, typically they're not looking for private, typically they're looking for, infrastructure, which is an issue as well, as Kathy said. But with our 8% coverage, we could just never meet any of
Right.
those, requests.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even, it's a complete non-starter.
Right, we're not
Yeah.
a player.
We're just not a player in anybody looking
Right.
to develop because the 8% coverage just
Doesn't,
doesn't
And
offer
to
it.
answer your question, or what are we doing together, I don't think we can do anything yet until this passes. And then if this does pass town, then it can be more of a, let's get that information out there that the bylaw has passed and is now more amenable to some other businesses to kind of come in here and look at. But right now,
you can't do anything.
We're at where we're at.
Yeah.
So I think if this goes and we get it passed, then there's some initiative there that can be done to get it more out there to get some more attractive businesses that we want. in
Right,
town.
right. Thank you.
And I think, for people who are concerned about, the higher coverage, 5 years ago, we didn't have design review board. Special permit was put in within the past 10 years, I think. So the town has a lot of control in that aspect. I mean, we could look at Clinton Savings Bank. It's a brand-new building, and it really looks like it fits right into the landscape of the town. And that was because design review board and the special permit process.
And the other part of the bylaws that we're looking at changing is the parking requirements,
Yeah.
which will actually reduce the amount of parking that are required for a lot of the buildings. So it's no longer going to be this building with this big sea of asphalt around it. And also changing some of the other offsets so that some of the parking can go behind the buildings instead of it having to be in front. And so we're doing some other things that will also help.
Yeah, part of that coverage,
alleviate some of the aesthetics of the.
part of the coverage bylaw is taking the 150-foot setback in the business and limited business and moving it to 50. So you could bring the buildings forward and put parking in the back.
We've been
And
saying
it
that
does,
for years.
and it does allow also.
We're trying to do it now. So
Yeah.
we finally caught up with you.
And I think it does allow for some of the either stormwater or sanitary utilities to be within, if you were doing like open space.
That's for the industrial.
Oh, sorry, that's just for
Yeah,
industrial,
that's just
okay.
industrial.
Just for industrial, okay.
But I think to your point, we can't really go out and sell businesses and have, and come in and say, well, if we go to if we approve this, then we're gonna have, Trader Joe's, we're gonna have Rite Aid, or, whoever coming into town, because they're not gonna commit to it yet. And I think as we found on the previous, whoever might be interested doesn't want their name out there until everything is, signed off, so.
Have you ever thought about offering a not-for-profit space where artists, chefs who need a space because they're just starting their business, they're looking for a space to work?
What, with town-owned, you're saying?
Yeah, they would pay a fee, but it would be very minimal.
I mean, we don't really have any,
Just an
we don't
idea.
have town property, we don't have any space. I mean, it's all privately owned land.
Just a thought.
I know the Kathy, who's the owner of Slater's, what's her name again? Slater's, Skinner.
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 The Skinner pro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, she was looking into like art type stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't end up working out. But I mean, the problem is it's, it's a financial thing, it just has to work financially. I don't know. I'm sure if there was a bigger, type development,
I'm just wondering if there's an incentive, if the state would give some sort of incentive, and this may be a great way to introduce the appropriate businesses that go and, that fit with what we're looking for in Bolton. It's just an idea.
Yeah. No, definitely, the art community is growing. We have all the cool arts and antiques and stuff, but,
One suggestion I would have is, which is completely out of your control, but it might be spoken to the persons that be, when we tried for our zoning change, there was a yay or nay, and there was no physical count taken, and it was passed right over, but yet to cut a tree down on one corner took a half an hour, and they took a vote with a show of hands of if it made 2/3 or not.
yeah, I remember that. I remember it being kind of a close sounding vote.
It was extremely close, and the point that they wouldn't take a head count vote, I just thought was wrong.
Yeah.
Because the no's came after the yays, so they could scream louder.
Yeah.
And you didn't really know what the count was.
I agree. I mean, I don't
It
like
was
that whole
terrible.
situation. Yeah, unless it's like completely unanimous, fine. But if there's yays and
But
nays, it
you
should be
had
counted.
you had a vote, you had a show of hands to cut like one tree on a corner, but a major zoning change, you don't take a vote.
Welcome to town meeting.
Can you request, just
But
curious, can you request a?
Well, I couldn't
count?
because I wasn't a resident, but the moderator controls
You
the
can
meeting.
request it.
Okay.
But, you know, the moderator
Yeah.
controls.
I think
the
what he
meeting.
said is because that needed to be 2/3 probably, so he probably thought it was nowhere close to 2/3. I don't know.
I'm not
But
sure
still,
I read that.
yeah.
There was a big school committee at that particular meeting. I mean, that was 6 years ago, so.
Yeah. So anyway, I
So
mean,
wish you luck.
I guess that's it. I mean, I just wanted to really have this be like the open line of communication. You know, if you feel like, you know, something's falling towards 40, you know, keep us informed of what's going on, and, you know, if there's anything the town can do for you, we have the EDC that could help, you know, market it all, but, you know, we have a pretty good relationship with people in the 495 partnership now. They're working with Cobham to help them sell, you know, so I don't know who you're connected to. I mean, you're probably pretty well connected with people, but if there's anything we can do for you, if there's any type of bylaw or anything tweaking that you think makes things better, you know, like you're talking about multiple buildings, which I think that actually, you know, I brought this up to Erica and it was kind of late in the process, you know, we're increasing the coverage, but we really should be, I think, you know, adding multiple buildings, you know, being able to split it up because.
I think limited business had that at one time.
Yeah.
And it may have been the same time they went to 8% that they took that, I didn't even know they took it away, it's still.
Because with the one building, what you end up is with a strip
Just a
mall.
huge building.
Yeah, it doesn't, you know, all the
It's not
developments now are more like pad-based, smaller,
Yeah.
you know, small, you know, little like sectioned off areas and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I never understood, I don't understand why they took away the multiple buildings.
Yeah, so we did bring it back with the overlay, you know, so I think that's a good point, and if there's anything like that, you know, we would
The
love
only
to
way
know.
to use the overlay is if there's a residential component.
Yeah, although we don't necessarily set the number of the residential component, so I mean, that's kind of like a negotiation with the town. It does say that it has to be, I forget the wording, balanced, but, you know, we could work with that, I guess, you know, and, yeah, I mean, you do have a back kind of landlocked residential area, so maybe you could fit some townhouses back there or something, you know, I don't know, you know,
Well, the problem is that's the whole well.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
any kind of, anything that has any kind of food service,
Yeah,
you need a public water
that's your public
source.
well. The whole area, I thought there was some area that wasn't.
Well, it depends on, you know, the volume, so you increase to 20%, you really can only, what was really sad in 2012 was we still were only building
On the
in
business.
that business zone.
Yeah.
But we wanted to include the residential to still have that ability to do that. Because what people don't understand is that wellhead takes up a massive
Huge.
amount. It's
Oh, yeah.
for,
If it's a public
you know,
water
it's
source.
like 10 acres.
Yeah.
It's a massive amount of land that's open space.
Because that'd be a public water supply, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, so I feel in general, even from 5 years ago, that the demographics in town are changing, so.
Well, I wish.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in May.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
So thank you for coming in.
it's great, it's good to talk to you.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you've flown the schedule.
Huh?
Now you've flown the schedule.
Okay. Warrant articles. How do we want this? What do we want to do here? We want to go with the warrant articles, or do you want to hit the...
Are we skipping the patent thing?
We could do it, yeah.
That's just an internal thing, we're not meeting with someone.
No, we're not. I'm just wondering, would it be possible to skip to the under administration, the signing of the plan for 339 Long Hill Road Common Driveway, because John
Yeah.
Mecklin is here, and I
Okay.
think the articles are gonna take a while.
Yeah.
That's gonna be quick.
Unless he wants to stay for the articles.
It's gonna be quick.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Shall I approach the?
Yeah.
You shall approach the bench, or table, whatever it says. So, re-sign the site plans for 339 Long Hill,
Well, kind
common
of.
driveway.
So we all worked together to get this common drive on Long Hill Road for the Caselka family side. And we did this over 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And then the plan, because we had some design changes we had to undertake for the project, and then winter hit with a vengeance. And in the meantime, this plan just kind of floated around between the engineering firm and our office, and then we all woke up and said, hey, now we're permitting the job, we're moving forward, I gotta submit the bond funding to the town. And I chatted with Eric, and we said, hey, I'm not sure we ever recorded the plan. We recorded the agreement, so that went on record. So we went last week to record the plan, and we learned that there's a state law that says if 6 months have passed, the registry wants to verify, wants the board to restate that no appeals or issues have surfaced in the 6 months, which, whatever. How can you can't argue with people at the registry. So we didn't argue. We turned on our heel and we walked out. Did you happen to bring that little bylaw blurb that they gave us?
I did, so it's in your packet.
And it's just an FYI for the future, and it really doesn't depend on the board to get these things filed, it's up to the developer. And because we weren't urgently getting out there with our machinery, it just kind of floated around. So, you guys signed this on the 13th of September, which was too long ago. Yeah, that's they just handed it. Here, read this.
So this isn't the first time it's come up for them.
No, they had the blurb.
So in order for John to be able to record that plan, the planning board just basically has to write certifying that the plan and the approval hasn't been amended or changed, and that particular plan could be.
So on the agenda says we're gonna re-sign the plan, but we're not.
Right, I thought that was an option at first, but then I realized we needed to.
So we just have to sign this?
Yeah, exactly. So I have
enough copies.
We sign our own.
Yeah, I'll try and record
This is
those.
the funky shaped house, right?
Yeah, it got a little less funky, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess just as
very
clarification,
Yeah, okay, just so.
have there been any changes since September 13th?
On this, no, on this design, no.
Just the house got less funky.
Yeah, the house, these two wings are now one piece.
Oh.
But as far as the common driveway aspect.
It's all.
Yeah, it's all the same.
And there are no appeals or anything from anybody?
No.
I have no problem with this.
Oh, good. Okay.
The second page is the same, it's the second page was just saying sheds, the kind of a detail.
Oh, sure, the profile sections.
Yeah.
No, we haven't re-talked to Fred, there's been no engineering ramifications at all.
So we need a motion then?
We do need a motion, yes.
I'll move that we sign the, what do you want to call it here?
Certificate of planning
Certificate
board?
of Planning Board for town driveway on at 339 Long Hill Road.
A second.
All in favor? Sign this one.
Erica?
Yes.
This has no house number on it. We did not have a house number.
Like my filer?
I don't know, the letter. This-
Oh, I thought this was 339.
It wasn't yet when we signed it. The fire department had not. See, that's a whole separate process. Don't get me going. But you have to do a token.
Do I say 339 on there?
No,
I don't-
You do not.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
I was
I thought
gonna
you read
say-
339 out loud.
Well, no, I said that just
We had that
for
in
our
the-
record, but yeah.
Oh,
We had it
agenda.
just on our
On
agenda.
our agenda,
On our
no, but
agenda.
the letter itself just says,
Refers to the plan.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yep,
I
yes,
just don't
you
want to
should be
throw,
fine.
I don't
No,
want to
you
throw a
should be
wrench in the
fine.
works.
So you need this?
So maybe in the motion,
Yeah,
take
I'm
out
gonna
the
try and-
339.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try, I'll provide you with a
I
copy.
was gonna say, I do need a copy of that.
Yeah,
so.
and I'll try again, see what they do. Thank you very much, folks.
Okay. And you can stay and listen to the articles if you want to.
I may, I don't know, what do you guys were talking about? Everything. Thank you very much, folks.
So, let's just, you wanna just jump, people here probably for the citizens petition, so just do that first. All right. Citizens petition. For those who haven't been following, which I think everybody has, but I guess I'll just restate where we currently stand. The planning board put forward a bylaw for tier 1. We approved it at our hearing. It turns out that we didn't properly notify that we were going to be looking at tier 1. On top of that, we didn't really have a lot of outreach for tier 1. So at our last meeting, we decided to not go forward with a tier 1 piece to this and just go with our base bylaw, which we have been working on for 2 years. So since then, there's been a citizen's petition to do a version of the tier 1, which is that in here.
It is, the slide.
Yeah. So I looked through it. There's actually, it's pretty, there's a good amount of differences between what we did and what they did. What we did is we pretty much amended our base bylaw to include tier 1. So all the zoning, the local zoning and special permit process and everything, our definitions for what establishments were and whatever, all those carried into that. The citizens petition, instead of building off the same bylaw, created a new number, 250-23.4, and took out any special permit process, design review, any pretty much town oversight is taken out. I'll let, I guess, Kate talk for herself, but her reasoning was because the state process is already pretty heavy on regulations, that she felt like maybe it wasn't necessary. My personal feeling is that the residents of the town, they have without having any local zoning, there's no there's no course for them to if they have any issues, or if we have any issues as a town with those, with the people doing tier 1, there's no real special permit type process where we can, oversee that.
So as a tier 1, it would be, the way this is written is it would be as a right?
Correct, pretty much it'd be as a right. And the right to farm, I've said this in a million meetings, I don't know if I said it in this meeting, but right to farm by the state doesn't include marijuana. So if it did, there would be no special permit process, because they could just, like growing broccoli, they can grow marijuana, but the state, determined that there's a whole bunch of other regulations besides growing vegetables, so they put their whole document into place in the whole law. And so, yeah, so the petitioners pretty much created it as of right locally, which I feel, the plan, as a planning board, I see where they're getting at, but I really feel like, there's, we need to have abutters and people in town to, their voice to be heard, and I think in this case it necessarily isn't heard.
So can I just ask a question? If the general bylaw we put forth passes, and this gets put up there, and then this passes, do we have any, conflicts?
I know, Brian, our town council, did look at it initially. He hasn't done a full review, but he did say that some of the definitions might butt up against each other. He thought that the definitions that we set should be the same in both laws, right?
Correct.
That's the one thing he said.
That was one thing he
All right, so
mentioned
the
to me,
definitions need to be consistent between the two. What else?
But besides that, we're not dealing in the residential space, and this is, so, there's not really much that, butts up against each other. My concern, actually, one of my concerns with them being separated out is, with them being tied together, you kind of had to pass ours to get to the residential tier 1. Now, the people who want this tier one, they could potentially vote down ours, get the more, you know, less regulated state laws, and then vote for this. So, I mean, it kind of, before it kind of, the way we had it set up is you kind of had to pass ours to get to that one. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can vote ours down, and then, so you can kind of get the best of both worlds in there, in this situation, for the people who want more.
So in terms of process, did you want to talk about process, that we are required to hold a public hearing?
Oh,
for
yeah.
this?
Yeah, so, town council let us know that we're not out of the woods for special hearings, for hearings, for public hearings. So, our second meeting in April, we're gonna have to schedule a public hearing, because, even though it's a citizen's petition and we can't pull it or anything, the planning board still has to approve and or disapprove. If we disapprove of the citizen's petition as it's written, and it gets voted down in town, there's a 2-year period where that, unless it's substantially changed, that by type bylaw can't come back. I assume that's because, you know, if there's a citizen's petition doing something against what the town wants, you know, so they don't just keep coming, there's pretty much like a 2-year waiting period before it could ever come back to town.
Okay, so I just need to understand the legal part of
Yeah.
this. So we hold a public hearing,
Yeah.
and we either vote for it or vote against it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you vote for it, it goes to town meeting.
It's going to town no matter what.
Okay, so that was my question.
Yeah.
So if we were to vote down, it still goes to town
Still
meeting?
goes to town meeting, the planning board will still have to read their report, but in their
Yeah.
report, you'll say that you voted it down.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd either
But
say we voted
because-
for it or
correct.
for against it,
But
okay.
because it's a zoning article, well, it's, you know, it's zoning related.
Yeah.
It would be in our zoning bylaw, we are required to hold a public hearing, the planning board is.
Okay, and then what you're saying though is if it goes to the town meeting and it's voted down,
Yeah.
and we had voted it down.
We have to vote it down first,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's where the 2-year moratorium comes
So
from.
if
Yeah.
there's 2 no's,
Oh, sorry.
then it's 2 years before they can come back
Yeah.
and do that. My other question is, if we had some tweaks that wanted to happen to this, can that happen, or is this, it is what it is?
It is what it is, the warrant's gonna close tomorrow night with Board of Selectmen. However,
so-
you could make changes on town meeting floor.
Okay.
Yeah, so we, which is tough, it's tough, right, because if we, if it was in there, so we're voting on April 25th, if that's when the public hearing will be. We're voting on April 25th with what's in front of us. We can make amendments on town floor, but we don't know if those amendments will pass or not. So it's kind of a tough spot to vote on. You almost have to vote on what's in front of us, because that's what's guaranteed. I know I talked to Kate about maybe adding some piece of local oversight and talk maybe minimum acreage in there. Kate, you can come forward.
I'm here.
Okay. I don't know if you want to.
I don't, if you need me to do a presentation, I will. I wasn't really expecting to do that tonight. I was more observing.
No, I just wanted this to be kind of a discussion. So that's kind of where we're at. We're gonna have a public hearing. Oh, and then the other piece that I want to do is I wrote up. Is that in here?
It's not,
okay.
your list of, yeah.
I wrote up that survey.
Oh, the survey.
Oh, the survey,
survey.
yeah, survey's here.
I would like to get that out. Originally, we were gonna do it, and then we took it away because
We were gonna hold.
because we weren't having a hearing. But now we are having a hearing, where we do have to have a vote. I would like to get that out and get it voted on. I'm not voted on. Get the survey done and see what a good cross-reference of the town thinks, cross-section of the town thinks.
Can we get it out and responses back before the 25th?
I mean, it's a month. So,
But Erica's not gonna be,
well, we're gonna have to deal with a lot of things without Erica. She's ditching us for some reason.
For some reason, but.
In reading this again though, I mean, it seems like we probably need to modify it.
Yeah, so I was looking at this, so this is based off of our
Right,
bylaw.
so this
Oh, yeah, so we
doesn't
wanted to
really
tweak-
apply
okay.
anymore to what's going on.
The questions still apply.
You think so?
I think so. So the questions are, question 1, do you think the town of Bolton should allow farmers and residents, on the back, do you think the town of Bolton should allow farmers and residents to operate as marijuana cultivators with tier 1 licenses, although that now should say 1,000 square feet? Because tier 1 actually to the state actually was amended to go up to 5,000 square feet. In Kate's petition, she did say 1,000 square feet, so she's, that's held, but.
You just do in parentheses, 1,000.
Eric, can you make sure it says, I think she called it small scale cultivator? Your tier 1 licensing.
Operate as, you say, a small scale?
Is that-
Small scale marijuana cultivator.
Small scale.
The wording is the
Yes, I
same
mean,
as.
it's holding a tier 1 license.
Yep.
But it's
But it would be
modifying it smaller for the
So
town.
operate as a small scale
Because that'd be
marijuana
only up to
cultivator
1,000 square feet,
with
right?
with a tier 1 license limited to 1,000 square feet. Sound good?
Thank you.
So on the, which one are you looking at?
Looking at the questions of
Question
the
1.
survey. Question 1.
Oh, all right.
I'm writing down some edits. Because I really want to get this approved tonight so we can get it out pretty much. Because if we don't do it tonight, then we won't have enough time to get feedback.
To get it out and get
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah. In the residential district with no minimum lot acreage requirements, this would allow farmers and residents to grow marijuana on their land, including their basements. Does that seem like a legitimate question?
With a state license. I think that needs to be clear. It's not
This will allow
just
farmers
everybody.
to grow marijuana on their land with,
We say a tier 1 license, but you could
Tier 1
clarify.
state license.
Yeah, with a tier 1.
yeah, tier 1.
State license.
State license. Okay, that's question 1.
So does that say with minimum, with no acreage?
That's with no acreage.
Yeah,
No
with no minimum lot acreage requirements. So it's pretty much
Anybody everywhere.
anybody everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question 2. If you answered no to question 1, I'm trying to make this wordy. Well, yeah, I'm trying to carry on the tradition of Dave. Whereas, hence 2 forthwithin, if you answered no to question 1, do you think the town of Bolton should allow farmers and residents to operate as marijuana cultivators with tier 1 licenses? We'll bring down the.
I would say to say it's small
Same as,
scale.
yeah, well, same as in residential district, but require a minimum lot acreage. We said 5 acres on here, but I think maybe 4 acres, because that's like a backland lot.
Is it, or do you want to say 4
4.5 is the backland.
Yeah, so say,
Is that what you,
That works.
are you
4.6?
4.6?
At least 4.5.
yeah, I mean, it would make sense to put it in line with the backland, like the.
I think it's consistent.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so the thing, you have like your condensed, like Bolton Woods Way, and, not that we're not trying to discriminate, but, you have tighter neighborhoods.
Where
that-
areas are close together.
Yeah. You'd rather have it more spread out if it is gonna pass. I mean, so that's one thing. So we say pretty much, but require minimum lot acreage. This would allow farmers and residents with, 4.5 acres or more to grow marijuana on their land, including their basements.
And can we carry through again?
Yeah, we'll carry through, we'll carry through all that.
Yeah.
We'll carry through all that.
Yeah.
Question 3, if you answer no to questions 1 and 2, do you think the town of Bolton should allow existing farms with a minimum of 4.5 acres to operate as marijuana called small scale with tier 1 licenses residential district? This would allow existing farms operating under agricultural exemption with 4.5 acres or more of land to grow marijuana on their land with a tier 1 license and would exclude residents. So it's pretty much.
What's it asking?
So it's
Existing farms.
So it's existing farms,
So
not
existing
resident.
farms, is that, farms are 5 acre minimum?
Well, no, I mean,
or-
it's.
That's what I'm trying to answer. So there's a contradiction there because a farm is 5 acres, but then it can also be 2 acres if you show X amount of profit per acre.
Which this would
So
guarantee
farms
to
can be as small as 2
Well-
acres.
Well, I guess we're saying farms with 4.5 acres or more.
But that's,
Are there any farms
Well,
under 4.5
do you
acres?
think-
I mean, as the AgCom, I gotta say, the land requirement don't work, like, I can't advocate for that.
Yeah, but, I mean, personally, I mean, I don't know what the rest of the people
I
on
mean,
board. I think
the
we do
state
need-
of Massachusetts, it used to be more than 5 acres, reduced it to 5 acres, and then allowed it for 2 acres, because, I mean, you know what I mean? So the state is going in the other direction you guys are going, and I recognize this is a very unique crop.
This isn't a bylaw, this, I'm trying to see, where people in town fall, you know? This is just to see if people want it completely, if they don't want it at all, or somewhere in the middle.
Well.
Right, but if
here's a
somebody's
thought.
qualifying as a 2-acre farm already and wants to grow marijuana, you just excluded them.
Do
and
we
that
have
seems
2-acre
like-
farms in town?
We might, I'm not positive. I'll find out for sure.
I
But-
mean, one option would be to just, I know you know a lot of additional questions, but you could just ask the question for 5 acres, ask it for 2 acres.
Yeah, I guess.
Why not just say existing farms?
Yeah.
Or that's
So
another.
what's an existing farm though? It's somebody, you know, with the tax.
That falls under the agricultural exemption.
Right.
Well,
So
they
would
don't
have
even
to-
list the acreage, then
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
let's just.
I guess that's what I was getting at, that, I mean, either you are a farmer or you're not. and
Yeah, but
there's-
then is that a loophole where, you know, just somebody just claims that they're a farm because they have some chickens?
No, you have, to be a farm, you have to produce X amount of product, and you're registered with the state. I mean,
And it
it's
has to
not,
be existing, it can't be a farm that wants to now,
Okay.
a person that wants to now become a farm just for the purpose of growing marijuana.
But that's not fair, because we're letting one person do that. Why couldn't
This is
you?
just a survey. That
Yeah,
was
it's just
one
a
of the
survey.
questions.
But the survey has to make sense.
Well, that's why we're talking
We're
about it.
asking that
this
question.
question actually says only existing farms.
Yeah.
Like, would you be okay if it was just existing farms that were
Yeah,
allowed to
exactly.
use?
No,
So it's
not
actually
residents.
excluding
It would exclude
residents.
residents.
I just have a question. I'm not familiar with our agricultural laws or anything like that. Would it make sense to get some input from our old established farmers in putting this together? Rather than working from the person that wants to do this to accommodate a survey basically on what this person wants.
So
And there are so many old farmers that I think they should be involved.
So I'm the chair of the Agricultural Commission for the town of Bolton.
I understand, but
So
for
I am
example,
speaking for the commission.
but let me tell you this, one of our oldest farmers in town, that his farm has been established since the 1920s, he knew nothing about it, and he was not notified by you. So I'm not sure how many farmers you represent.
So we have open meeting laws, we have agendas, it's on the agenda. He's always welcome to come and have a discussion.
Well,
I don't think that their farmers are thinking about
yeah,
marijuana
marijuana,
farms, right?
right.
Oh, I'm gonna go to a meeting and learn more.
They're thinking about, vegetables, and I think for something like this, the farmers should be involved in
So the
putting.
whole reason there are 11 tiers is because farmers got involved. They can't be involved in medical marijuana cultivation. They got involved, they lobbied so that there's 11 tiers, so that they could get involved in this kind of agriculture.
But what I'm telling you is from our town, the established old farmers that at least I have contacted, they were not contacted by our agricultural committee to get their input. And these are large established farmers. So I think it would be good to involve some of these people in putting the survey together.
I wouldn't agree with you, but we have a fairly tight, well, an incredibly tight window here. If we want to have any survey results before, basically before town meeting.
So does the planning board, do you make your decision based on the survey, or do you make your decision on?
Hold on. And that's actually one of the reasons that I have reservations against the citizens petition, is that I think that it is a very narrow view of the licensing, and that we may want to look at, some of the, do we only want to allow 1,000 square feet? Do we want to look at allowing more in certain agricultural areas with minimum lots? Do we want, we haven't really done a lot of
Due diligence.
I mean, you know, and even with the original Tier 1 amendment, it was kind of, it was
Well,
rushed.
that's why, you know.
But I'm not against growing, I'm just.
Well, that's why
think
we
we're
started
kind of-
into it, and we were like, we didn't have enough research, so we pulled out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
but now that we do have to vote, I think it would be a good tool to have, to just see where a good
Yeah.
cross-section of the town
But
falls.
this is more to, I mean, I agree that getting a wider, you know, more buy-in from the agricultural community would be good.
Yeah.
Also,
You
there
know,
were,
whether they're interested or not in doing it, it would be, you know.
It would be
but-
helpful if they can see the survey and potentially answer.
provide some
and
input.
Provide
Yes.
input.
Right, but I don't think we can wait till our next meeting to
No.
No,
finalize
I
the
mean,
questions,
but you
then have
can
results,
contact,
you
you
know.
can contact these farmers
Well,
tomorrow and
yeah.
give them a copy of the survey and
What I
get
We
their
can
views.
we can invite some.
I have, you know, contacts for a lot of the farms. I mean, if the board would like, I can forward a PDF of the survey to them and
Yeah.
just let them know that it's out there, and then they can choose
You can
to
also extend an invite to see if they're for or against it, you know?
invite them to the, or let them know about the public.
Yeah, I mean, I say
Yeah.
regardless of the
Yeah.
survey, I think there's two things here. I mean, one, the survey is a tool for us just to try to get some information from the town of where they stand in the Tier 1. Two, it sounds like we could also try to gather some additional information
Yeah.
from the farmers. I mean, I'm willing to gather information
Because
from.
I mean,
I guess.
the way I look at it is, we're here to represent the town. I mean, not necessarily our personal opinions or the opinion of 4 people that are in front of us. I mean, I want to be able to represent the town as a whole. So I think the survey is good if we can get 600, 700, 1,000 people. And if, you know, it might just fall along the 50-50 line. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but
But I mean, I guess, the other question, I guess the question I have for Teresa is, if you have a farm that qualifies, you know, in the under 5 acre, you know, down to 2 acres, are they gonna be able to maintain their, if they take land out of cultivation for, you know, marijuana growing, are they gonna be able to maintain their profit margins that they need to stay a farm?
It's an interesting question. Because you're still selling a crop, so
Yeah, but
only
if
in
you're
the
carving-
planning definition have
if
they
you're carving
removed
out-
this as growing a crop. It's still growing a crop.
It's growing a crop, but it doesn't fall under the right to farm.
Right.
So it wouldn't qualify against their requirement.
Oh, so you're saying we
I'm
could
not,
potentially
you know,
lose their,
Would they lose that because they take
because they've taken
the
space.
space out of,
other
from other crops to grow
Because
that?
it's not state recognized.
It's not a big limit that you have to get up to. So my
Okay.
guess would be they would still be able to qualify as a farm.
I can't imagine a farm
But-
willing to
But
use
that's,
that.
I'll ask my contact at Mass Department of Agriculture, see what they think, if that is an issue.
Anyway, I mean, so the survey really is just to see what the town thinks.
I mean, you can split it out, you know,
Word in.
down to, you know, 2 acre farms, then 5 or more.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. My question
Raise your
was,
hand.
Yeah,
I
raise your hand.
did, a few minutes ago.
Yeah. All
My
right.
question is
Well,
for the
first of all,
planning board. Do you?
Can you guys state your names?
Sure.
I know who you are, but just state your name for the
Sure,
record.
Sharon Klein, Hudson Road, Bolton.
Yeah.
My question was, does the planning board make a decision then based on just what the town thinks, or are you actually going to do research with experts to find out what the ramifications are of doing this? I know this is a very short time frame, so I just want to know the answer to that. If it's just not possible, it's just not possible.
I mean, if you've watched along with the planning board and what we do, I mean, we do nothing, we do an insane amount of research. And we've been talking about our base bylaw for 2 years now. I mean, we did the moratorium for a year and we've been, you know.
So you've already talked to the health department, you've talked to finance, you've talked to all the different departments within the town and addressed this particular issue?
For the Tier 1?
Yeah,
No, we haven't.
but that was my question, that's all.
This isn't our bylaw.
No, I was just asking,
Yeah.
you're gonna make a recommendation.
Yeah.
I wanna know what information you gather to make that recommendation.
I think right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the, you know, originally we had pushed this off thinking for another year at our last
To do
meeting.
everything you're saying.
To give us
Right.
time to be able to do that. It's now coming forward in front of us from a citizen's petition, so we are trying to do as much
Sure.
of that research in the timeframe we have. So I think we're a little limited, we're trying to, get to that point where we, you know, have a good understanding, but we're putting all the
Yeah,
pieces
no,
in
that's
place.
fair, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Teresa?
So I actually represent the Agricultural Commission, so it's me and 4 other people.
Uh-huh.
So just to be clear about that. Also, this idea of approaching the farmers, again, we don't want to put anybody who's already an established business on the spot, potentially, that...
Well, we're just inviting them.
Right, however, that could be contrary to they, you know, have farm stands and customers, and their opinion about it may, we're trying, as the Agricultural Commission sees it, we're trying to provide them the opportunity. That they're already growing crops, this is already their business.
Mhm.
If they want to deal with the 88 pages of restrictions or guidance, then this is an opportunity for them to do that.
I guess the question is...
That's our thought.
You said, sorry.
That's okay.
You kind of said that before, and I just got like the feeling that you hadn't talked to them. You know, have you talked to X number of farms and they're interested or not interested? Or?
Not with our farmers necessarily, but with a number of different farmers. And with the Department of Agriculture, and with the Massachusetts Farm Bureau.
So can I ask just, why do you, can you explain again, I'm just trying to understand why it wouldn't be beneficial to ask them to come in?
It's not that it's not beneficial, but potentially they have customers and customers have feelings, and what if this was something they were contemplating?
They don't want to put it out.
What if that affected their business?
I see what you're saying, okay, all right.
So
I just wasn't understanding.
It's unfortunately because of the situation, you know, I tried to do it in a different way to get some sort of input.
Okay.
Maria Shoemaker, 1 Teal Road. I would expect that any kind of committee we have will represent the town and the group of people. For example, the agricultural committee would represent all the agricultural community and our farmers. And that has not happened. I think it would be important for these farmers to be involved and know what is going on and bring up their opinion. Like I said, what I found out about this marijuana thing, I started contacting our farmers, our big established farmers. They were like, no, we didn't know anything about it, we're against it. And I think they should be involved and get their feedback. And this has not happened. I mean, I'm just surprised. If that's our agricultural committee, you would expect they would contact all the farmers to get their input. And the farmer, at least one of them is a neighbor of mine, and he told me, he's like, of course I would want to know and provide my input. I didn't know this was going on. Nobody contacted me from the agricultural committee.
Okay. I don't think anything new is going to be said from this point on, unless anybody has something new to add. So I think.
Are there more questions? Or is that it?
That was
the fourth one.
The fourth one was, do you think the town of Bolton should not allow small scale marijuana cultivators with tier 1 licenses to operate in the residential district? So it's pretty much saying, do you want it all? Do you want a minimum acreage? Do you want just existing farms, or do you just not want it? And we just wanted to understand where the town is, because it's tough for us to operate, you know, with a few people on one side and a few people on the other side.
I think it'd be great. I mean, it would give, Kate could withdraw her petition if it seems like that the entire town doesn't want it.
If 1,000 people respond,
she could withdraw it and bring something next year, as opposed to having to wait 2 years.
Right, because you need 2/3. So if that's what I'm saying, if we can get 1,000 people to respond, we got 600 people to respond to the last one.
Was it that much? I wasn't sure.
So just to make it completely unbiased, how about a question that says, do you think that small cultivators should be up to 5,000 square feet, which is what tier 1 is?
We could
do that. Yeah, that's fine.
You know what I mean? Just so that the questions aren't just limiting, but one is actually expanding.
Yeah.
I mean, if you voted, if you said no, if you said no, if you said no, What if they said yes and they think that it should be even bigger?
I don't see.
I mean, do you think you'll get more than 50% in favor?
I have no
That's
idea.
that's what we got on the last one, right?
Well, no,
I don't think we would get any
For
higher than that.
business and limited business, we got 52% in favor,
Was it 50 to 48? Yeah, it was
52 to
That was
48.
close, but yeah.
Um,
So what do we expect to get from this? Just whether
Well,
it's a like
Some people,
unequivocal no, like an
I think-
80%, 80-20
I think it's just a
against?
guidance, just another tool of guidance to give us some information.
right, well, and like Teresa said, if it's like, you know, if it's 80-20, then what's the point of doing what she's doing, you know?
If it's 50-50, what's the point?
But at a point, it's
Well,
who shows up at town
It's
meeting.
50/50, it's who gets town meeting better.
Yeah. Well, and then the problem with this is it's potentially gonna be at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's also a citizen's petition, so it's at the end of the warrant, so how much attrition has happened and the pros and cons, for and against.
Town meeting is a crazy place.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just wrap it up, yeah.
Yeah, just a logistical question. How are you gonna distribute the survey so everybody gets it? And I have a question about the hearing.
I think last time we put it in the Bolton Independent, which I guess is the Stowe Independent now.
And
It's not free anymore.
It's not free, it's not going everywhere, so.
So we got it, we did it, we had it online though, as well, because I actually entered it
So
online.
we can do it online on our town website. I think we can put it on Facebook and let people know that it exists. We can put it on, you know, Bolton Local Word and
Next door.
Destination Bolton.
Yeah, I think putting it out on a few of the Facebook groups
Yeah.
and letting people.
Stacks of it in the town hall, people can pick it up.
It should be available both electronically and hard copy, I guess is what we're gonna try to do.
Right.
I didn't anticipate putting it in the paper again unless.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think it'll work.
No,
Okay.
I don't think it'll get the coverage that it did.
Yeah.
I asked her, Erica, about
It'd be
if we mailed it out, but there's an expense to that. I don't know how much, it's probably a few $100s, right?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. But, I mean, we can,
We didn't mail it out before, did we?
No.
we can ask,
Well, we implicitly did it in.
I mean, we could
Oh, because we
put,
did it in the Bolton Independent.
like, we could put it, you know, we could put a stack of them at the transfer station and town hall and ask people to distribute it among, you know,
I mean,
Take the stack, fill it out.
yeah.
I could like distribute it to my whole neighborhood, for example, but the reason I asked is because the last time we had a survey, some people were not aware there was a survey.
It did go out in the paper, maybe people missed it, but it went out to everybody. There's a chance that it was missed, I guess. But I know we had this discussion,
Yeah.
Maria, where, you know, you're saying things weren't maybe properly notified, but, I mean, like, we literally beg people to come to meetings and to get involved, and still only 10% of the population shows up, you know?
And that's the other question I had about the hearing, because it's
Yeah.
an important hearing.
So
What will be the communication so the residents know to come?
Yeah.
Well,
to
is it set for April 25th?
No, I
Oh,
have to
sorry.
advertise it in the paper. So for a public hearing, I'm required to publicize it in a local paper 14 days prior to the hearing, so.
And it's posted in town hall.
And it has to be posted in
And
town
put on
hall
social
and on our
media.
town website, so
Mhm.
that's basically, you know, how people would find out about it. So, now that we don't have the Bolton Independent, I'll either advertise in the Clinton Item or the Stowe.
Yeah. Teresa?
So for most people that I spoke to, it makes a big difference that this is just about cultivation. You know, when you advertise for this survey, you know, marijuana itself is a very big subject, but it's the retail stores and the, you know, cafes someday, and it's those things that, you know, when you get past that and know we're just talking about growing plants here, it makes a huge difference.
I think, I mean, the first sentence says, "The Bolton Plan Board seeks your input whether recreational," and we could say add in the small, whether recreational small-scale marijuana cultivators, with Tier 1 licenses should be allowed to operate in the residential district with a special permit from the board. So I think that's kind of, you know, there's
Well, you
more.
have to
But
take-
that's-
you have to take
All
the
this
special
get
permit.
modified now.
Oh,
You
yeah,
have to
we
take
gotta
a special
take,
permit.
yeah, so this does need to be, but I think that first sentence is basically saying, we're asking input about.
So we have to approve this tonight, we can't do it.
Yeah,
all
we
reading.
do, we need to,
So let's just read through the front.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while, but we have to, if we wanna do it.
So the Bolton Planning Board seeks your input whether recreational small
Small scale,
scale
yeah.
marijuana cultivators with tier 1 and in parentheses, we want to say
1,000,
1,000?
yeah. Oh,
Um,
well, we're gonna add that question in the
well,
back.
that's, yeah, that's what I was
We put
gonna
the
say.
citizens
Petition's for 1,000, so just say 1,000. And here, say 1,000.
Okay, okay. So, you could say maximum 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Licenses should be allowed to operate in the residential district, period.
In,
Because we don't want to say with a special permit.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
say,
Yep,
is it
no
allowed?
special permit, yep.
As per 935 CMR 500, marijuana cultivators with tier 1 licenses may have up to, so this should be 5,000 square feet then, right? Is that right?
That's right.
Yes, that's
This,
right.
this one should be, yeah, it says 5,000 square feet, a canopy for growing operations. A marijuana cultivator may cultivate, process, and package marijuana to deliver marijuana to other marijuana establishments, but not to consumers.
Yep, that's still
Right.
good.
So if we're changing that 1,000 to 5,000, do we need to
Is that-
reference the citizens petition that
I
would be
think you, I
1,000?
think
Yeah,
we
still
should,
be
I think
more
we should.
confused, yeah.
Yeah.
We are seeking input whether recreational small-scale marijuana cultivators with a tier 1 license, we could say
I mean, it's
as,
still, I mean, regardless of what the tier 1 says, we can still say have up to 1,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
yeah, you don't need to
Yeah.
say 5,000, just say,
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to say the Bolton Planning Board seeks your input regarding the citizens petition for da? I mean, or do you want that
Yeah,
to be
we could say
separate,
regarding
you want
the-
that to be a separate sentence saying that, you know, we have a citizens petition before the town right now.
but yeah, maybe that, I don't know, maybe we put that at the end. Leave the whole first two sentences as is and say, you know, there is a citizens petition in front of the town we are seeking input on.
sure. Yeah, just so it's not like, so it's directed towards that.
Yeah.
So, are you gonna keep reading? You did a
Sure.
good job.
Currently under GL 94G, marijuana cultivators are not allowed in the residential district. The state does not recognize the growing of marijuana as an agricultural exemption under State Zoning Act 40A, Section 3. Therefore, Bolton Farms located in the residential district are not allowed to operate as marijuana cultivators with Tier 1 licenses. Is that all that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. In order to allow...
Any license, not just tier 1.
Okay. But we're really focusing on tier 1, so I think we'll leave it in there. But in order to allow farmers to grow marijuana with a tier 1 license, the residents of Bolton would need to pass an article at annual town meeting to allow said operations within the residential district. Please note, in addition to farmers, the planning board is also considering allowing residents to grow marijuana with a tier 1 license. So we gotta,
take the planning board as well. Let's reference the citizens petition.
I think we just delete that whole sentence, because we stated above, there is a citizens petition in front of the town we are seeking input on.
Yeah, get rid of that
So I
last
would just,
sentence.
this whole last sentence, I would just delete.
Yep.
And then this is how would marijuana cultivators
That whole
with,
section, yeah.
with,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
with tier 1 license, and I think we need to just make sure everywhere we say marijuana cultivators, we should say small scale. How would small scale marijuana cultivators with tier 1 licenses be regulated in Bolton? All aspects of the cultivation of marijuana would take place at fixed location within a fully enclosed building or.
So, all of these points were from our
Right.
bylaw.
Okay.
So I think we could probably
You can either take the whole thing out,
Take the
or
whole thing
I
out.
can restructure it based on the citizens petition.
take the whole thing out.
The whole thing out.
I take the
It's
whole thing out.
Yeah, take the whole thing out.
But can we add in a couple bullet points
I would say that,
from here?
I think you have to say, with the citizens petition, do we want to say what the citizens petition allows or doesn't allow?
Can I,
Yeah.
just very quickly,
Yeah.
I think for me as a resident, what also scares me a lot is only the 50 feet buffer zone. And I think when people complete the survey, they need to understand what tier 1 is that we're proposing. And
So
the
actually,
fact that there is
you do
only-
have a 50-foot setback in yours, so we could leave that one.
What if I just, added a sentence that the citizens petition can be found online and give a link, and
Yeah,
then they can read it for themselves?
I mean, it's not long.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't think they're gonna copy it into the survey.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I did see the survey earlier, and I thought it had way more words than it should have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take that whole
Yeah.
section out,
Okay.
because then it's all on one page.
Yeah.
So I think it would be good to have it link to the
Yep.
citizens
Yeah.
petition
Yep.
and just say, instead of Howard, yeah, you could say, see link
Just-
to
Yeah. That sounds good.
petition.
Ship it.
And then get rid of all of this. We'll have all of the description of the citizens petition for everyone to look at.
Yeah.
And then we've got our questions
Yeah.
on the back.
Yeah, and now we'll,
And then do we want to add in,
I don't think we should do the, do we want to do the 5,000? Does that just confuse things?
I think it's just confusing.
What about a question like, I mean, the big deal is whether or not it, or maybe you already put this question in and I just don't remember, but, the special permit.
Well, we took out any mention of a special permit.
yeah, so I mean, one of the questions could be is, do you want to allow?
Should it be regulated by, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
should
that's a
the
good
tier
question.
one be
But,
regulated?
I mean, I think you have to be fair and say that that the state law requires an abutters meeting, a sign off from the chief of police, and a selectman, what do you call that? A host agreement with the selectman.
I'm not on the planning board, but if you guys are just looking for feedback from the community, I think you want to keep it simple. And, I mean, there should be more work to do on this, whatever the results of the survey are.
I mean, ultimately, 95% of the people are gonna be all yes or all no. I mean, they're gonna hate it or they're gonna love it, and
Hey, the special permit question, they may not even understand that, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah.
They're gonna go,
And you know
"What's
what, that could be
that?"
brought up
Yeah.
at town meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a point.
we're just trying to get a feel of the town. If they want this in residential or they don't
If
want
a
this.
lot of people do 50/50, I'm gonna, it's like,
Yeah. We just wanna get a general feel of where the town's at, so I think simple's better. So don't add, just keep the 4 questions we have. We have the edits
I
on
think
that.
we'll get the feel by the answer of these questions.
We really need that second paragraph then, or should we?
The
just
second
go over the
paragraph.
second paragraph, or we?
I think that gives a little bit of background, I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I think it gives the motivation for the citizens petition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What we're, what a bylaw would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost have the first paragraph, the second paragraph, and at the end of the second paragraph say, there is a citizen's petition in front of the town we are seeking input on. See link to citizen's petition
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Please answer the following questions
Yeah.
below.
So do we need to have a vote on these edits, or?
So are we keeping the sentence that says in order to allow farmers to grow marijuana with a tier 1 license, the residents of Bolton would need to pass? Well,
Wait, where are you?
Where are you?
The very last sentence of the second paragraph. Citizens, it'd be a citizen's petition in real time.
I think that's, in order to allow farmers to grow marijuana with a
Just
tier
take
1
that question
license,
out, or
the
the
residents of Bolton would need to pass, you would want to say, need to pass the citizen's petition, right?
Right.
Not an article.
Yes. Well, this-
Well, I mean, it is an article.
Let's just say in general, something needs to pass town meeting to do it in residential.
I would
It's okay
maybe
with this.
say an article and in parentheses, the citizens petition.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then that ties it all in.
Yeah, that ties it in. Okay, do we need to vote on these edits or something, or are we just good with it?
Well,
Do you want to
I'm
just
gonna
send us?
modify it and then send it around just in case I miss something or you guys decide you
Maybe we
don't.
could just send it out then.
I
And
mean,
then,
if you
and then
send-
after you give us a couple of days, you could just send it out, we don't need to have some vote or something about it.
No, I
Yeah,
don't think so.
Okay, sounds good.
I was gonna
Alright.
say, if you can get this by the end of the week, could we send it out on Monday? Is that too
Yeah, what I'll
soon?
do is I'll modify it tomorrow morning and send
Okay.
it to you.
Yep.
If you could get me edits by Sunday,
Yep,
and then I'll get it on, we'll try to get it on the town's website on Monday.
and so if it goes out the second, what do we do it for 2 weeks? I mean, I guess we wanna have it
Do it
enough
right
time
up,
to,
right up to,
don't do it right, we need some time to just get,
a week before then?
yeah, I was gonna say, have it due by the 18th, which is 1 week before the 25th.
Yeah, so the 2nd to the 18th.
Yeah, so
That should
it's
be
2
good.
and a half weeks
Yeah,
4/2 to 4/18, hearing on 4/25.
Anything beyond that.
And that just gives us a week to pull all the results together. Because Erica's gonna be gone, I think, during that
So,
point.
you want to extend it to the 18th?
We said the 18th, yeah. Second.
Yeah, I give them as long as they can, but I think 2.5 weeks is fine.
Yeah, I
You're
think
within
that's
that 3
good.
week, I think we gave them 3 weeks last time.
Yeah.
So it's 2.5 weeks this time.
Yeah.
I mean, people are gonna either answer right after.
Yeah, if they don't answer it for a week.
Typically, they say 2 weeks.
The short- Yeah, two weeks is-
I used to do surveys.
Yeah,
when
that's what I had always heard,
Mhm.
2 weeks, so.
All right.
And then, does the board want me to contact the farms regarding the public hearing in the
Well,
survey or not?
I mean, you can invite them, but if they don't want to, don't make it seem like a requirement, just if they want to add.
Well, it would
input.
never be a requirement,
No.
it would just be.
I think what would be beneficial is if we could reach out to them to try to get their input, but in reference to the fact that it may not be appropriate
If they
to
just
have
wanna
them be
email us,
here,
yeah.
if they wanted to give us their comments in more of a,
I just want to provide feedback to you.
if they could, if they were willing to provide feedback, that would be great. And I would love to hear it, but I also want to be sensitive to the fact that they probably don't want to come here. In a
Well, no,
public hearing.
the way that I would just word it that we're holding a public hearing, you're welcome to attend.
Provide written
You know,
comments.
here's
or-
a survey, and, you know, feel free to submit that survey anonymously through the mail if you'd like.
Well, the survey is anonymous, I mean, you should be able to answer it anonymously, but if they
Well, then
had.
again, if it's anonymously, we wouldn't know that a farmer replied.
Yeah, so I would say it would be great to get them to just answer the survey, just because it's more people to answer the survey, but if they wanted to submit comments regarding this, written comments, we could take that and not mention names or anything like that, so that if they felt that was appropriate.
Okay, I think we're done with that.
All right, so I will do that then?
Yeah, just see if we can get, any additional inputs helpful.
All right, we gotta go through the rest of the bylaws now.
Thank you, please.
This is real fun.
Good times.
It's real good fun.
Yeah, it's always like, what do we even?
Oh, we got town council minutes, is that?
Yeah.
Council votes, yeah.
All right. Edit from town council. All right, so Article 9. So his first big point is if the town should be litigating the over 55 thing or not, or if we should just ask. So not having any of these defining over 55 in our bylaw, but making it go into the homeowners association, right? Erica?
Well, yeah, I think that's what he's suggesting. I think, let's see if I have this. I think keeping this in here, but saying that maybe adding that it will, that the homeowners association will be the enforcement. Because, I mean, these are things that we want
Right.
to have in there and that are, you know,
Yeah.
so that would be part of the.
So leave all this in here, just specifically state that the homeowners association will enforce the over 55
Yeah.
clause. The age restriction shall. So the town council said this may put town officials in the uncomfortable position of enforcing the zone law with respect to family arrangements. The town might consider leaving these specifics to the developer homeowner association to handle through deed restrictions and rules and regulations in compliance with LHA. I can't tell if he's saying take that out or if he's.
I think he's saying take it out.
Yeah, I think we were very, I think, you know, these are the things that we felt we wanted in there.
Yeah, I think we need
I
that.
do agree.
This might put town officials in that position to enforce. Why, can't we just add that sentence? Homeowners association will enforce the clause?
I think that would be good.
That will.
Yeah. That sounds, could we just add that, Erica?
Yeah, we're at the end?
Yeah, I would just, maybe right after the,
Yeah, unfortunately, this is what it's in the definition section
oh,
where we're defining what
oh.
50 and over dwelling units are. So that's what the definition is.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing that we had with the fast food, where we had the definition and the enforcement, you know, and a whole bunch of stuff all in the definition section.
Well, is there a better place to put it?
That's what I was just, that's what I was just thinking.
So we do talk about the homeowners agreement, where we say that one should be formed. It's, what the heck is that? It's in the section where, where's that address?
I'm looking for it.
Private roads is page 7, bottom of page 7.
This is when the other bylaws too long.
Okay, section 8, project maintenance. There shall be an organization of the owners.
Where is it?
On page 8.
Yeah.
That could be under there. 8, project maintenance, and we could add it to sentence over there.
Add
Homeowners
section.
Association will enforce the, how do you want to say this? The over 55 requirements? Or,
for applicable units. Yeah, so maybe number 10 here.
oh, you don't want to make it as part of 8, you want
Well,
to
it's not
make it
really
as...
project maintenance. So it's
Okay.
talking about roads and snow plowing.
So we will say over 55 compliance.
Yeah.
5510, and then we could say homeowners association will enforce, what's the right word?
Age restrictions.
Or will enforce the occupancy
Well, I
of
mean,
the,
in 8, we say the organization shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of internal roads, so we can just say that the organization shall be responsible for compliant, that the definition of over 55 is
Yeah,
followed, or?
basically how I wrote it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put, the homeowners association shall be responsible for ensuring age-restricted units meet the definition of 55 and over dwelling units.
okay, that's fine, that works.
Compliance with or definition of,
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
That works.
Yeah, okay, sounds good, good.
Next one.
So this one, we went through this whole math and came up with the, so we have the 4x and the 2x density, and we said that, you know, it's 50-50 at a minimum, so you end up with at least 2/3 being, being over 55. But what he's saying is that, the state deems an over 55 to be 80% or more.
Okay.
So he takes that whole 2/3 thing out that we were talking about?
Well, and he links it to federal, state laws
Yeah.
governing communities. That's fine.
Yeah, I thought his edits, I didn't have any
Because
changes
he's
to his
right,
edits.
we want to avoid amending the zoning bylaws,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if something like that were to change.
So instead of saying 2/3, we just,
Yeah.
it's a 100% max to a minimum of whatever
Yeah,
is the requirement of the state
yep,
to be deemed over 55.
I think
I think
that's
it's
fine.
perfect, yeah.
Yeah, I think his wording is fine, his
Yep.
edits are
Yeah.
fine.
No, sounds good.
And actually, then we get rid of the whole having to explain the 2/3 thing and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
We should have talked to him sooner.
Okay.
Page 10. Is he agreeing with this? I don't get what he...
I think he's adding the
He
upon
added it
written.
in.
Oh, he added the upon written. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was there before?
Nothing, I think he added that
Or
condition.
the
The
whole
entire,
J.
the entire J
I
section?
think so, yeah.
So he wrote upon it, and plus,
Okay, the planning board may waive this.
the submission of such information and parts thereof estimating them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's fine. That's good to know.
So it just gives us the path to waive certain things?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was it for his edits, and then there were two other minor edits.
Will residential uses have specified parking requirements? No. I haven't typically seen a question on page 16.
Yeah, we're right there, yeah.
I think there was two other little minor edits to the cottage overlay.
Oh, was
before
it?
we move on to the parking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, right, sorry, sorry.
That's okay.
5%.
The town council, so,
Where
the
are
building
they?
inspector, it's
Separate
separate,
page.
it's separate because of the package you had was from town council.
Oh, and who's this from?
So, our building inspector weighed in,
So page 6.
so page 6, yeah.
Subsection F, ADA compliant units.
So to be compliant with the building code, it's 5% and not 10%. So,
Why should we not be able to exceed the building code, but?
Yeah. A
Seems like if
minimum
we-
of 5, we can be more, we can require more, can't we? A minimum of 5% of all dwelling units shall be ADA compliant. I mean, it's, if that's what's in the building code, that's probably what most developers are used to. But I would think it should be okay that we're more. I'm okay either way. I just like the fact, I'm just glad we've got it in there, but,
We have something in there, yeah.
yeah.
so leave it at 5% then, or change it to 5%?
I mean, it's more, if it's more consistent with the building code and what developers know, that's fine. We can make it 5.
What building code would specify a percentage of something right
The
now?
Mass State Building Code is what I'm assuming.
It's the A, yeah, what is it, the Architectural Access Board.
MAAB.
The
Oh.
second page, actually, he circled it for us, where it would.
Yeah, this is MAAB, the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, so it's the state governing regulations for ADA.
So it's only if it's 20 or more units, at least 5% must be.
21 is 5%.
That's fine. I mean, if you had a lot,
But not for sale.
Multiple dwellings. Yeah, but not for sale.
That's not completely ethical though, because.
because ours would be potentially for sale.
Yeah.
So it isn't apples to apples, but
Rent, hire, lease.
I mean, but it's a new thing to be putting in here, so if we want, we can just say, you know, we base this, I think the original percentage was kind of a, what do we think is appropriate, but this is more based off of something, you know, from the MAB,
Yeah.
so.
I'm fine, just go 5%.
That's fine.
Let's change it to 5%.
Okay.
And then just one other edit on page 6, there was a reference to the example that we had taken out, so thankfully I caught that and I
So
deleted
take
it.
that out.
Keep something given.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's it.
Here.
Is that it?
On page 16,
Page 16.
will residential uses have specified
Yeah.
parking requirements?
We talked about that and we didn't think it was
I
necessary.
don't think-
I don't think it's
necessary either, I would not go down the
I
road.
would go down that,
No.
yeah.
No, I think, you know, houses are much more, oh, and then, okay, so on page 23, number 8, what's he saying? That even if we don't approve the question or approve the article, that, I'm not quite sure what.
I think he's saying that we're okay
I think
with
it's just
having this in
confirming.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
He's saying it's not allowed, gotta be allowed anyway.
No, he's saying that it's okay to ban those
Okay.
things.
It'll be approved, okay.
Same with the next one.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, right, which is,
Okay.
And his comment 9 there.
oh, instead of saying the nearest point, just say from lot line to lot line.
It is easier, but
We
But,
can't do it.
well, but what commercial or industrial lot do we have that doesn't abut residential?
We can't do that, we don't keep it the way it is.
I mean, you know,
Okay, so we're gonna leave it at nearest
Yeah,
point then?
yeah, leave it how it is.
Okay.
Oh, and then you put that whole farm right in place thing. You know,
Yep,
the way
that's
it's-
the same thing, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just want the lawyer's way out of things. All right. Good.
and then did you want to look at the figures really quick for town meeting or no?
That's the,
That's the maps here.
The maps, yeah.
Oh, what do we have here?
So just from my notes again, what was I mean, our previous parking bylaw basically required more parking than would be typically required in surrounding towns, more coverage of impervious surfaces, and didn't have dimensional requirements, correct?
There was some number of square feet per square foot of commercial and industrial space.
Yeah, it wasn't like a
It didn't
typical.
even, yeah, it didn't even, wasn't even number of spots, it was just some number of square feet.
so, all these radiuses are 500 feet?
Yeah, so the first one shows the intersection at the high school.
Yep.
So basically what I did was I created a figure for each of the districts.
Okay.
So this one is where, Dagnall Liquor is located, Classic Pizza, Post Office, and then the Keller Williams Realty building is. I show the 500 feet from the high school, 500 feet surrounding each of the commercial buildings. If we don't go from property line, we go from point of facility or building, Dagnall actually could be a potential location.
Because there's no residential?
Yeah, there's also,
It's not touching any residential dwelling, and it doesn't actually touch the high school building either.
Because it touches post office?
It just touches up to, Classic P, all the other.
Oh, wow,
commercial buildings.
6B-7, and so close, look at that. I have to go to like the Cape for that one. So if 6B, what is 6B-7, is that a house?
I assume so.
okay, so I'm not quite sure what would, so this is showing what our proposed?
This is the proposed, what
Yeah.
we're proposing, correct?
No, we proposed from any residence as well.
Yeah.
Right, so even if I put the 500-foot radius around the residence, it's still gonna be, it's still not gonna touch the Dagnall Liquor building. I could do it either way.
Because we're doing structure to structure.
Yeah, we're doing
not
structure to structure.
Okay.
It's cleaner to do it this way
Yeah,
than
yeah.
to put circles, around every
So
single.
6B-0 is the house?
Yes. It must be.
6B dash.
But it's not to the property line, it's a structure.
Oh, it is a house, no,
Yeah, yeah,
I've driven,
that is
no,
a
I've
house.
seen that house, I've seen that
Yeah.
house.
And then 6B-7's a house, right?
Wow, I think my house is actually closer to Forbush than it is to Wildland Road.
So I tried, any commercial building, I tried to highlight well, I didn't try, I did, I highlighted in blue.
Yep.
The only thing that could be a little bit confusing, municipal buildings, some of the municipal buildings still show up as orange, so,
Yeah.
like, for example, I'm not gonna go through and I don't think it's worth it and color code those.
Oh, it is what it is, I guess.
So if somebody built something in 6B3 and hugged it back toward the Tadmore side of the property, they might be able to squeeze.
6B3 is business.
It's business.
That's business, yeah.
So wait,
Yeah,
can you-
but
so what is this showing? This is showing that you can put it where?
Dagnall's looks like that could be a
Dagnall's, yeah.
retail.
But that's the only one that you can put it in?
Right.
Because the others hit the high
It's a
school?
high school building.
This one hits, actually, no, what about, what is this going around? 6B5,
That's the Keller Williams Realty building.
Yeah.
but what's,
It's not residential.
you've got this one blue that doesn't look like it's,
Each one of those blues is 500 feet around the post office, Keller Williams, and Classic Pizza.
So you see how if you follow it, it hits the high school?
Yeah, but this one
So-
doesn't, like, there's one blue that doesn't, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Doesn't hit the high school, but it hits 6B7 and 6B.
Oh, I think you're looking
Structures.
at the back building at the post office, I think, is that one?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, that's what it looks
But
like.
it hits 6B7.
Right.
Hits where? 6B?
The structure
Okay.
on
It's that.
It's the
6B7.
house next to it.
Oh, okay, so it can't hit, so sorry. It
Yeah.
has to be
Yeah.
500,
Feet from residential and from where people congregate.
Children congregate.
Children, sorry. I meant to say children.
is that, and did we say a 500 feet from a residential lot line or residential house?
House.
We said-
A residential house,
Yeah,
okay.
that was
So-
what the town council was suggesting lot line.
Gotcha,
But
no,
that
so,
would-
okay,
yeah,
so
that
we
would-
were still saying residential house.
Yeah.
But so this one at diagonals, because it's DPW, it's not residential, you could, well, so, all right, so this one, it doesn't hit the house, it
It
gets
doesn't
into,
hit the
it goes
house.
within the
Yeah.
residential
Right,
lot
it's
line,
not-
which is
it's not hitting any
fine,
structures.
Yeah.
but it's not hitting the
Prohibited.
house.
Same thing with
Right.
6B0, it's not hitting the house.
Yeah, yeah, but you could probably put, if you put a building back in there, you might be able to do something, but
Yeah.
you'd have to play with where exactly the buildings in Tadmore are.
I think we
and
should
such,
stick
but-
to, I mean, I think it's just easier to speak to the existing building
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
think,
gonna-
I mean,
there's
the
gonna be-
developer could come forward and propose a lot of different things, so.
There's gonna be a ton of houses in Tadmore, so I think 6B3 would be.
Yeah, but I thought they were more, they were a little further in, but,
I think they're
yeah,
right up here.
okay.
Okay,
Actually, the houses start, this is the business district, they're all right here. This is, remember the Tadmore thing?
Yeah.
We left the business as is.
Yeah, the business, but I thought
And
there,
then the
but I
house
thought
is
there was
all-
the,
I don't think they're
the hill here, and then I thought they were
No,
more further down. but-
there's a couple like right here.
Okay, yeah, okay,
alright, Paragon,
okay.
So now this is showing,
the industrial,
District.
so children congregate, none. Commercial buildings, building structure, let's go, residential is orange, children congregate, buffer 500.
So that's what we anticipated, right?
Yeah, so those are all safe.
So that's safe.
Yep.
The next one, this is Skinner's and Slater's. This is limited business. And like you were saying, Eric, if the residential went away from Slater's, it
Yeah.
potentially could be allowed at 357 Main Street and Slater's.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't hit any other residential structures.
And it looks like even there's the potential that you could do something with 357 Main if it was.
If we reduce the, and that's what the next one, because Mark had asked me to also show what it would look like if we reduced it to 250 feet to a residential dwelling.
Yeah.
Anticipating that there may,
Yeah.
you know, since that was the question.
So Main Street then would be allowed. Yeah.
So that's the next figure.
Yeah.
so wait, but on this one, it's not allowed though, because there's a residential right here.
Yeah,
Bruce lives-
So
Bruce lives
either these-
upstairs here.
Yeah, so these,
Currently,
neither,
this would not be
Yeah.
allowed.
this wouldn't be allowed. So now, okay, gotcha, so
But
now,
if you decrease, if somebody amends our
Okay.
article to 250 feet, then it would be allowed there.
Yeah,
okay.
Right, it'd be allowed at Skinner's.
yeah.
Which I can't see that passing, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next two figures are probably the hardest to read, because there's a lot more involved. This is the 495 area.
So this is showing 500 feet, so where it's,
So 626 is a no-go.
so hold on, what is the green? Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, yeah.
Children
The green-
congregate.
So that's.
Oh, that's the 500-foot buffer from a children, wait,
You know what?
that doesn't make sense.
Something didn't, for some reason, the green, so the parcel that has the playing fields was supposed to turn up green, so I'll have to
Well,
turn that
you have
on.
a second one here, which.
Yeah, that one, so the first one's 500 feet.
The second one's 250?
And the
No,
second
but
one's
I can
250.
still see where it would have been. So the playing field you said should have been green,
It should have been green, so I'll make sure to turn that on.
but
I don't know why.
I think you do have it. It's just not in that little area.
No, so there's a dark green that shows, that should have been, like the high school, you know how the high school is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
dark green? It should be a dark
Oh.
green. The offset should be a light green.
But the buffer is
The buffer's there, yeah.
All right, so wait, I'm confused.
So the light green is the buffer around the playing field.
Right.
saying children congregate there.
Right, so if you look at the legend, the light green says
So
children
it's a school,
congregate
so-
buffer 500.
If you look at
Yeah,
the,
but what is all this?
that's the buffer around the playing field. Erica's saying that that should
Oh.
be dark green, showing that's what
Yeah,
children
it must
congregate.
have gotten turned off.
Okay, but, and then is there something, I guess, what else is dark green that has,
This playing,
So the other
there's a
dark
playing
green
field here,
is,
but where is, why is, like, what is this?
so that's
buffer
my
to?
question to you guys. If we're going from facility to facility, it gets a little challenging when we're talking about things that don't have structures like playing field. So for this, just to make the figure, I went by property line for the
playing field.
playing.
Oh, which is this whole weird triangle?
Right, because there's playing fields in the front, and there's playing fields in the back, so I just did the property line.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
That's gonna need to be explained, because it's,
Well, just,
I mean,
if you
people are
make that all
gonna,
dark
they're
green.
gonna look at it, they're gonna be looking at kind of the blue areas here
But
and,
if you just make all that dark green like she said, and you say that's just playing fields with children congregating.
And I
Yes,
can
okay.
move that label
So you'll
that
make-
says playing field.
Yeah.
yes, where
sort
the
of
dark
center,
is.
to the
Yeah.
center
Gotcha.
of that parcel more, so it's a little clearer.
That would be very, okay,
Yeah.
that would clear it up. I think
Yeah.
that'll work, yep.
So,
And
The
then,
Bolton-
oh, it's on the second, okay,
so going through.
I got it.
so it's right on the second
All
one.
right,
Okay.
yes, all right, so now now the buffer makes more sense to me. Yes, okay,
So
so this is the
we're looking at
250 buffer.
If we're
Okay.
looking at that 500 feet, it's basically not allowed in most of these locations. Not 626 Main, not Bolton Capital Group, not Bolton Corners, not
Right.
Bolton Office Park.
Yeah, because of
not
that
Colonial
plan.
Candy.
Not
The only
colonial.
property that could be a potential is the Kane property, if
Yeah.
they so chose to develop something like that.
But, yeah, if that house got,
Yeah, and they own that house, so it
What about
would be
Colonial
under their
Candies?
control.
you've got
No,
Craftsman
because
Village here.
Craftsman Village
Yeah,
is
that's
right there.
that's not developed yet, but it will be.
Yeah,
It's right up there, yeah.
Well, I mean, and enough of it is that it would.
it would,
you know,
yeah.
It's enough,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it would certainly.
So it's really only diagonals, 357, and then if you wanna do something industrial.
It's not 357. It
Well,
would be
If
357.
they amend it.
if Bruce wants to move,
And the Kane
Or
property.
the Kane property.
Right.
or the Kane property.
Yeah.
Because I consider that a possibility since they own that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing is on the 250 one, I think we're missing a buffer on this, aren't we?
Oh, where did this come? Okay, yeah, I'll fix it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it did that.
Yeah, so
So-
626 is still out. Actually, no, technically
You
it's
know,
not.
it's, yeah,
It's close.
Well, that's 250, right?
It's 250, yeah.
so technically based on this figure, it could go there, but, I think it's so close, you would really.
Yeah, you need to do some surveying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but.
Are we-
But
are we-
it high, so at, was it Selectmen's meeting? Or no, advisory where we were going over the articles. Kate and a couple other people asked, why 500 feet, why not
250.
250 or 200 or 100 or, so what I asked Erica to do was, this is what our proposal is,
Yeah.
but just being prepared
Well, so
in
this
case
is
somebody
my,
comes back and says, let's amend it to 250, we can show
okay,
people
so we're
what
not
that
gonna
means.
show this unless the question comes up.
Correct.
That was what I
Yes.
wanted to make
Yes.
sure.
So it opens it up to 626 Main, Country Covered, and then 470 Main Street, and then the Kane property is open for both.
Why is there a little orange thing behind,
Oh, the gas, oh.
is that
Two
behind
country covered
470?
Gas station. That might have been left, oh. no.
Yeah, I mean, this is GIS data, so it could be a shed, it could be anything, but
Yeah.
it's,
But it's not residential.
No, that's gonna be
This is good,
demoed
okay.
and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the new buildings
This is good.
there, so.
Have fun with this, Mark.
are these
Yeah, I bet
helpful
you
or
it's-
not? I mean,
I think they're
want-
No, it is,
definitely
yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
It's helpful to us, it might be tough at times.
I think it's gonna be a little confusing, but if
Get a
you
laser pointer.
understand it thoroughly, then,
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a little shed off that house, that's what that is.
Is that what that is?
but that's gonna be gone anyways, but then you could,
They developing that whole
Yeah.
area.
yeah.
yeah.
Great.
So Mark, what I'll do is I'll make those edits, and then I'll send the PDFs to you. So you
Okay.
well, I'll send it to everybody, and then you'll have it for town
So
meeting.
I sent out the slides I had been kind of working on to everybody. So you can, if you want to use those to start yours and build onto that, that's fine. You done? Approval minutes?
Oh, and then just the planning board reports, I don't think there's really anything to edit on those, right?
No.
I will have to add one because you'll need a report for the citizens petition.
Yeah.
So you'll just have to finalize that based on whether you approve or disapprove it.
Yeah. So we have to read off our spiel every time.
Yeah.
Are we approving minutes or no?
I don't have these
That's fine.
minutes unfortunately. And then,
Schedule hearings, which we already kind of discussed.
so I just thought real quickly, because I may or may not make it to the next meeting depending on when my maternity leave starts.
What's the actual due date again?
13th. And our meeting
knew it was
the
the
11th.
Yeah.
So it's cutting it close.
Quite the trooper.
Oh, here we go. So I just thought I would give you an update on what's coming sort of down the road. I'm expecting a special permit application for dog kennel any day now, so we'll have to schedule a public hearing.
It's the first time we'll be doing that.
For
Yeah.
what?
For a dog kennel.
Like 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah,
we,
commercial dog kennel.
3 or 4 years ago, we did a special permit for dog kennels.
Right. Again, there's the 240B projects in town, so at some point, when that comes forward, the planning board will likely be asked for input. So that'll be something that you'll need to weigh in on. Eric, you talked about the master plan, housing production plan, those are things that could be coming down the pipeline for the
Just-
springtime.
Yeah, so everybody knows the master plan, but in the housing production plan, so these 40Bs that are going in, if we're working towards adding affordable, so I think Erica, you said if we add, so we need to be at 10% in order to completely not allow 40B, but if we have a housing plan that shows what we're in development with and that we're working towards a goal of 10%, I think as long as in the past year, if we've done, you said 0.5%, if a 40B we can stall a 40B for a year or prevent. And if we've done 1% in the past year, we can do 2 years.
Right.
Okay.
So between, I think it's 12 units going in on South Bolton Road and 8 going in on Still River, but those aren't all affordable, there'd be some percentage of that.
Right, right.
But it's assuming we have 1,700 houses, 1% is 17 units. So between Sugar Road, Still River, and South Bolton, we maybe, actually, for the 0.5%, it's only 8.5.
Right, we're probably
So,
gonna meet that.
so we're probably gonna meet that, so there's a chance that with that, and if we have a housing plan, that we could potentially block the next 40B. So, we need to,
Does it have to be a legitimate housing plan though?
Oh, yeah, it has to be
Yeah,
approved
So how do
by-
we,
well, so we could look at the last one that was generated, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and they tried to update it in 2010, but it came back with edits, so it never got approved. We never made the edits.
Yeah.
So, that's basically what we would do. We would take the 2010, update it.
With all
and
the
then
current
resubmit it.
developments,
Current
and
census data, all of that.
so we can say, what we're working on in the plan to try to get the percentages in there with the current
Yeah.
housing and,
And one of the applicant for the South Bolton Road 40B project actually came into my office the other day and said that he'd be willing to even pay for us updating it to hire a consultant to do it. So that could potentially be.
well, and also the other thing you said is he was probably okay with the thing I would be scared about with the 40B is lots of kids and stuff coming in, and not a lot of tax revenue because it's like smaller places. But he said that he'd be willing to do over 55, which would be great.
Yeah.
I still don't know.
South Bolton Road?
Yeah. So I forget the lot number. I looked it up. It's if you look up the agenda for ZBA, it gives you the lot number. It's like this 5-acre weird shaped lot. I think, right? So it's Century Mill, it kind of butts up against some of these people that were the Century Mill people. So it's like 12 units on these 5, it would be dense.
That's what we need. Some more traffic over there.
Yeah. But what you did say is that he'd be willing to try to help with the flooding issues, right?
Yeah, and drainage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're doing engineering for that, or that's on the warrant to approve.
It wouldn't be Spectacle Hill,
Oh.
it would be further down on South Bolton Road, that's like basically right in front of his property. He said he would be happy to
Okay.
make sure to improve that. Keys Farm, you guys will need to sign the Mylars for that project, and then also review the performance guarantee. That'll have to go to town council. Walter Erickson at some point will be coming back to close out the common driveway on Long Hill.
Great, that's gonna be fun.
Those are really like in terms of projects.
Yeah.
Will probably be coming forward, and then obviously Century Mill.
But with the threat, I really want to block a 40B on Kane, you know? I mean, like, so I think we need to, if you can spell out the path to get that done before you leave, so we can.
Spell out the path for the.
You just write how to go about getting that housing plan.
Okay.
Like the steps that we need to take. Like, you know, who to contact, what we need to do.
I'll try. There's a lot of things to get done in 2 weeks. So.
You know, like
It's sort of on, that'll be lower on my priority list, but I'll try to get to it.
Yeah, just like, so we can get it going.
Yeah.
Who else would we be able to, you know, if she's gone, to be able to?
To talk about the housing production plan, Doug Story is a great resource.
Okay.
He's the one that updated it last time.
He came in and talked about
Kevin
it.
O'Brien. So
Okay.
it's people on the Housing Authority Trust.
Okay.
They were the ones that I talked to originally about updating it, so they are a good resource.
So we're pretty much settled with bylaw stuff, so I don't even mind in the next meeting or two if we invited them in, you know, to talk about it. You know? I don't know if we.
I wouldn't say in the next meeting or two, because, I mean,
The next
yeah.
meeting, maybe, the one after that is
It's
gonna
gonna
be.
be-
The hearing, yeah.
It's gonna be the hearing, and it's gonna be Century Mill.
yeah,
So maybe the next one, maybe not.
When is, by the way, what is town meeting, do we know?
It's the first Monday in May, so.
So, May,
There's May.
And
May 7th?
And potentially Tuesday.
May 7th.
Right.
And Tuesday's the second backup night if we need it.
Oh.
Okay.
Did we do everything on here? We did.
Did you have to do anything with Tadmore?
Oh, we haven't done Tadmore yet.
I don't need to say that though, right, because I need to recuse myself.
Yes.
You're gonna recuse yourself right out of here?
Comes in late, leaves early. Jeez.
Town council's reviewed it, it's the performance guarantee, it's a covenant, same idea as Century Mill where they can't sell the lots until they build the road. Town council had no revisions or edits.
Where is that?
This one?
It says Tadmore on it.
Yeah, it says Tadmore at the top.
Are we approving this tonight?
You don't have to, if you want to move it to your next meeting, that's fine.
Are they, is there something about the affordable in here? Or is that, or covenant's not part of that?
The affordable is addressed in that decision, this is just the performance guarantee.
The performance for getting the road built?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything that we need to review here, or you think it's good?
I read it, I was fine with it, I mean, it's,
Yeah. Well,
from the other covenants I've read, it seems like, kind of generic.
Is there anything like
That one's such a small road, it's not.
They're gonna build it before they start building, any houses.
I'm fine
They
with
said
this.
that during the hearing, it's a small.
Yeah,
I-
they're not
I
gonna
see
be able
that.
to,
Yeah, they're not gonna
do
be
this,
phased.
the site. and-
We're not gonna have the same issue on this one that we do with Century Mill.
No,
It'll be quick
it's
and
much
easy.
smaller.
I'm okay with accepting this.
That's fine.
I don't see you next, good luck with
Thank
anything.
you.
All
So we
right,
need,
all right.
do we need a motion to
Yeah.
approve?
Yeah.
We do, yeah.
And move that we approve the Form E restrictive covenant for Tadmore.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You want me to sign mine that says Tadmore, or you have?
I have clean copies, and I printed 3 because I'm not totally sure if we need 3, so,
It's the first thing they get to sign, James.
Don't worry.
and then we can have a motion to adjourn.
Do you want me to put the date up here?
All right, I can do it tomorrow.
I would go with,
Motion to adjourn.
Great.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sorry. Shut it off. Want to talk, okay, there goes our.
Oh, thank you.